Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Select Board will be conducted in both in-person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. Committee members and members of the public may attend the meeting in person or remotely. Instructions for remote access can be found at the top of the agenda. Every effort will be made to ensure that those attending remotely can access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the Town of Great Barrington, CTSB, Berkshire Edge, and Berkshire Eagle. The listing of agenda items. First of all, any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So we'll start with Select Board's announcements and statements. Smitty, why don't you go up and lead off?
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief, I promise. But thank you very much. I just came down with a little small token of my appreciation for the support that this town has given me for the last 22 years. And I have an American flag here that I flew over the State House on your behalf. And if I could just read this citation from the governor, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Office of the Governor, in honor of the town of Great Barrington, presented by Representative Smitty Pignatelli, with appreciation of your support during my 22 years of service in the House of Representatives. This flag was flown over the state capitol on September 11th, 2024. Representing this community and working with all of you, or some of you longer than others, but I'll have to say selfishly, I'm sorry to see Mark leave, and all the town managers in Great Barrington's had, and I've worked with all of them. This guy's been a rock star, so I just want to say thank you, a little token of my appreciation, and say keep up the good work. All right.
Okay, I'll lead off with a statement from the Select Board from actually the town manager. On several occasions recently, residents have mentioned or asked questions about the town acquiring Housatonic Waterworks Company by eminent domain. The board is and has been aware of the provisions included in Section 6 of the 1897 Housatonic Waterworks Charter, which is an act of the state legislatures, Chapter 229 of the Acts of 1897. That section allows for the town, if approved by a 2/3 vote of the town meeting, to take by purchase or otherwise the franchise corporate property and all rights and privileges of the Housatonic Waterworks Company. This is not new information. It's been discussed by the Select Board at various times throughout the last 5 years. Should be noted that taking by eminent domain, which is what this charter says, does not mean the town will not be required to compensate the owners of Housatonic Waterworks. Charter says there must be a payment of the actual cost of the company's franchise. How to calculate that cost more than 125 years after adoption of the charter is likely not a simple task. And if there were disagreement between the town and the company, it's possible that court would have to decide what the value of the company is at the time of the taking. Assuming the Select Board agrees to pursue an acquisition of the company, the board would prefer to negotiate a purchase directly with the owners and settle on a mutually agreeable price. This not only allows us flexibility in setting the process and price, but also the timeline. The Select Board will be meeting in executive session this Wednesday, November 6th, to continue our discussion on this issue, and we appreciate your continued patience. Ben.
I'd like to thank everyone who came out to the meeting that we had last week with consultants about Housatonic Waterworks. Thank you to DPC and town staff for putting all of that together. If feels very good to finally have some information on this in hand. So as Steve said, we're meeting on Wednesday, talk about what's next, but even just having that information feels like a small victory in this long and frustrating process. I know the road ahead is gonna be hard, but having the data that we need to actually make those hard decisions is the first step. I'd also like to thank everyone here tonight from Brookside neighborhood. I hope that we'll have a good conversation, and thank you to everyone coming out to present information on possible solutions for this.
Thanks, Garfield.
I just want to reiterate what Lee had said last week at the meeting at Monument Mountain. That we really are working hard. Though sometimes it may not seem that way. Sometimes we have limitations on us, but we are doing what we can with you in mind for sure. I just want to realize that.
Thanks, Garfield. Eric?
Yeah, I'm also thankful for everybody that came out last week, but I want to take this.
I can barely hear you guys, I'm sorry.
I wanted to take this time to thank everybody for coming to last week's meeting as well. But also to take a minute and thank Smitty for everything he's done for our community, and gonna be sad to see him go. The few times I've had to call Smitty in my life, whether I left him a happy message or an angry one, he always called back pretty quickly. So, you know, that takes a lot, and I know you had a lot of towns to look after, and I really appreciate everything you've done for us. So thank you.
Lee?
Thanks to the Brookside Neighbors Group. I've been kind of working with you in the background, and it's good to have you here today. Thank you for everyone that's joined us. I'm looking for a fruitful discussion, and thank you to Smitty for all your service.
Thank you. Mark, do you want to go ahead? We're gonna skip over the approval of minutes.
Yeah, I want to promote some people, but I'll do that in a minute. I have a few updates to share this evening. I know most of you are here for the Brookside Bridge conversation, so I'll be brief. Houstonic Waterworks, again, I echo your statements about thanking everyone for coming on Monday night. That was really a productive session. Someone asked during that meeting what the status of our relief fund program is, at the balance, I think is what they were asking. And at this point, we have about $220,000 left in that earmark account. So what I'm gonna suggest is that the board revisit that topic at an upcoming meeting, and if you'd like, I'll update my executive summary that I presented to you the first time with a new recommendation. That's good. Town manager search process, just wanted to provide a quick update on that as well. The screening committee vacancies were posted and advertised on our social media pages and on our website. We've already received a number of inquiries from interested residents. And we'll be bringing a list to you for consideration very soon. And as far as the recruiter goes, I should have a proposal to you by the meeting on the 18th to consider. So it's all coming together. General election, I just wanted to remind everyone that tomorrow is election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think that's probably not news to anyone in the room, but I did want to also say that precincts A, C, and D should report to the State Road Fire Station. Precinct B, primarily Houstonic, should report to the Houstonic Community Center. And all of this information is not only in the packet for tonight, but it's also on the town clerk's page of our website. Winter parking, I just wanted to remind everyone, since this is the last meeting before it goes into effect, that our winter parking ban begins or will be enforced on November 15th and will continue through March 31st from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. during snow and ice events. So there are parking areas in Great Barrington and Houstonic for anyone that needs overnight parking and generally parks downtown. So we'll have all that information out very soon, posted on our website and on our social media pages as well.
So let me just give you an update, how we're gonna do this Brookside Road, Brush Hill Road Bridge update and discussion. We are, Mark is gonna introduce all of our content experts. Each will give an update. Some are on Zoom, some are in person. Each will give an update based on the questions that were provided in advance and recent events. At the end, we will entertain questions after everyone's completed their reports. And I think it's important so we're on the same page. The way Great Barrington runs is that it's citizens of Great Barrington who may speak. So that's defined as a primary resident of Great Barrington, Housatonic, homeowner or renter, a property owner in Great Barrington, Housatonic, a business owner, operator with a base of operations in Great Barrington or Housatonic. And citizens are asked to speak for themselves, not speak on behalf of others, unless they had specific permission of the chair. Questions should take somewhere around 2 minutes, no more. And let's get started. Mark, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and promote Francesca Hemming from Mass DOT as a panelist. I'm just waiting for her to accept.
Can you have a mic or something so you can speak up? We can't hear you back.
There is no mic in this room.
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
This mic doesn't work at
the
stand.
That's not a mic. It's not a amplification mic. It's a mic for the recordings.
Francesca, is there anyone else on your team that I should promote?
Yes, there is, first, good evening to everyone. Rob is joining us from Boston. Rottenberger
Got it.
and Mark DeValder, distribution engineer.
Okay. Anyone else?
That's it.
Okay. So.
You don't even know what you're talking
I don't
about.
know, I can't.
We're just,
not hearing you.
okay, so what we're asking you to do is not to speak out of turn. We're trying our best to speak as loud as we can. Mark is getting the panelists ready on the Zoom meeting.
That's what we're trying to find out, what you're doing, because we can't even hear you at all.
Why don't you move up towards the front then?
Are you kidding me? That's all of us.
No, but when they're long, they're here, and we'll speak as loud as we can. When they're on Zoom, you'll be able to hear them better.
Okay, so what I was thinking we would do for introductions, just so that everyone in the room knows all of our roles in this process, we would start with introductions. So Francesca, would you like to go ahead and start us off with introducing your team?
So I'm Francisca Hemming, District 1 Highway Director, Mass DOT Highway Division, and joining me today is Rob. Rob, you can introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Rob Rotenbucher. I'm the Bridge Program Manager. I deal mostly with funding for bridge projects through MassDOT.
And Mark.
Okay.
Mark DeValder, he's here with us. He's our district bridge engineer here in District 1.
Thank you. Andrea, you want to start with your team?
Sure. I'm Andrea Lagas. I'm a bridge engineer with Time and Bond.
I'm Dan Holmes. I'm a senior project manager with Time.
Go wherever, go DPW superintendent.
Okay, the more people talk, the more we're gonna have complaints you can't hear, so please don't speak. So, let's introduce again, start over again, please.
Andrea Lacasse, I'm a bridge engineer with Time Bond.
I'm Dan Holmes. I'm a senior project manager with Time Bond.
Go aerial DPW superintendent, Great Barrington.
Scott Turner, Fire Chief.
We also have Chief Storty from the Great Barrington Police Department joining us by Zoom, and Kevin Wall, the Director of Southern Berkshire Ambulance, in case there are any public safety questions that come up tonight as well. So Francisca, could you lead us off with an update from Mass DOT, perhaps?
Sure. So as we all know that we have engaged Benesh for the design of this bridge. The design right now, it's progressing because the consultant has to submit us some timelines for submitting the type of studies and other type of reports that we need in here. And we did ask the consultant for an idea of how, when we can see a 25% on some of the information that we would like to see speed up in this bridge, you know, as soon as we can. And they have a lot of work to do ahead of that. So because they still have to do field some supplementary field survey, soil borings, you know, structural reports, geotech report. There is a lot of information that needs to be done, and that is going to take some time. Yeah, I would say around near 18 months. By August, you know, next year, we should be looking at a 25%, close to 25% submission, plus or minus. And the consultant basically is going to submit an NTP, that is a notice to proceed, on December of 2024, December 1st. So that's where we are at right now.
Okay, we did receive some questions in advance of tonight's meeting, so we're gonna try to address as many of those as we can. Dan and Andrea, do you want to lead off with the summary of your responses?
Sure. So we'll just run through the questions that were asked of us, and we'll respond to those individually in the components in the order that they were asked. So question 1, is it fair to assume from your work on the contract it's possible for the Division Street Acro Bridge to be placed on the Brookside Bridge? So at the conceptual level, the comparative load analysis between the existing and proposed loads, as well as a geometric review indicate it is possible. However, the design does need to be advanced further before it can be submitted to Mass DOT for review and approval. The second component of that question, what would be the timetable and cost? So the timeline is dependent upon the Division Street Bridge replacement project and that schedule, specifically when that bridge is removed and available for relocation. And we estimate the cost of this project to be around $3.5 million. The third part, what if you were to use another Acro Bridge, not waiting for the Division Street Bridge to become available, the timetable and cost. So we estimate that timeline would be between 2 and 3 years from the award of contract. And this timeline is contingent upon permitting, abutter, and utility coordination. We estimate the cost of this project to be approximately $4.1 million, an increase from the $3.5 million. Question 2 is, were you shown the DOT inspection report or draft for Brookside Bridge dated May 2024? Is that why work was stopped on this contract? And so Time Bond has not received this inspection report or a draft. Work was paused when Mass DOT indicated that they would be designing a full bridge replacement. Where are the minutes of the meetings and the final reports required by the contract? Only 7% of the work and $10,000 in fees remain unpaid. So the 25% design meeting to present the conceptual design drawings to the town and solicit feedback was not held. The remaining contract tasks include delivering the 25% design documents, meeting with the town, and preliminary coordination with Mass DOT on the proposed project. These final tasks were not completed as the project was put on hold. Question 3, has the town of Great Barrington ever asked you to assess whether the Brookside Bridge could be repaired without the use of an Acro Bridge? So rehabilitation of floor beam 0, we did receive photos and sketches of the deterioration in May of 2024. That was briefly discussed when the bridge was closed. Time Bond has not evaluated the existing bridge for rehabilitation because we have not seen the remaining inspection report. Can you rule out whether the Brookside Bridge can be reopened with very limited one-way traffic, just emergency vehicles, for example, or vehicles of a certain size and weight? So Time Bond has not evaluated this bridge for rehabilitation. Based on our understanding of the floor beam 0 condition, rehabilitation would be required to consider any of these options. Question 4, have you done any other work? Oh, sorry, Dan's gonna take this.
Question 4, have you done any other work in 2023 or 2024 pertinent to the Brookside Bridge? So in the fall, winter time of 2022, So in the fall and winter of 2022, we did perform a traffic study at this location to evaluate the use of the single lane bridge being relocated from Division Street. And then why has your work product been given to DOT or to Benesh Engineering? You asked Benesh if they could use time bond on their team. What team is that? And does it concern the repair or replacement of the Brookside Bridge? We offered our support to the Benesh Engineering team as they advanced the Brookside Bridge replacement design documents through the MassDOT 25% design process. Our services may include providing environmental coordination checklists, hazardous building material assessment. Some of this work has been completed or was underway by Ty and Bond, and the objective was to eliminate duplicative efforts. And those were the questions we received, and of course, happy to answer more throughout the evening.
Or anything you wanna? Sue, do you wanna provide? Please provide an update on the $500,000 earmark.
Yeah.
Funds.
I was able to secure $500,000 for the Brookside Road Bridge. It's stuck in conference committee right now. That's in the economic development bond bill. Should be shaken out any day now. We actually thought it would be done before the election, more than likely, probably next week or the next couple of weeks. That's a bond bill which requires a roll call vote with the House and the Senate, and I am fully anticipating that it'll be done by the end of the year. So there is money for you in that bond bill, but it is not available yet until it gets finalized and signed by the governor.
So I guess I'll just add a brief update from my office, and that's that a couple of the questions that were included in the email for me were based on information that I had back in May when the bridge was first closed. Quotes from me at that time. So I just want to address that. Again, that was based on information from that first scoping session with Mass DOT team and the team there. Again, when this was considered a preservation project. If the timeline remains at 6 to 8 years for full replacement, then I would opt to, in this coming fiscal 26 budget draft, I would opt to include a temporary span for consideration. It's something that I think is important, but it is a process that the Select Board and Finance Committee would have to discuss, and then ultimately voters at town meeting. And I'm not sure that everyone understands the funding process, so I'll just briefly explain that our budget season will begin for us here next week. Department heads get started on their departmental budgets, and we start building our capital budget. So when I talk about including this in the budget, I'm talking about including that temporary span based on the updated numbers from Ty and Bond in that post capital plan. Voters would approve that or could approve that in May at our annual town meeting. So that's the plan from my office as it stands now. And that's everything I had to share.
Okay, so let's take questions. Just come up to the microphone, state your name and address. And if you have questions, if you gear them towards Mark, he will decide who's best in content area to answer them.
So they're very specific questions for very specific individuals.
Then go right ahead.
First of all, Teagan Bond. We're talking about two paths here, replacement and interim repair. And the group here wants it as fast as possible. Replacement, no matter what I'm hearing, is minimum 6 to 8 years, maybe 4, if you do something miraculous that I don't know. So that's unacceptable to us. Which of the acro bridges would be faster? Division Street or brand new purchase? One costs us $500,000 more than the other, but Smitty says we have an extra $500,000. So which is faster? Given what you know about Division Street, we want to know what to ask for.
Yeah, we don't have a good handle on the Division Street schedule. Mass DOT has that schedule. I believe 25% design drawings were recently submitted. So to minimize coordination, it would probably be a little faster to buy a new acro bridge.
Well, it seems to me not a little faster because they're not gonna give up that bridge for quite a while, right? They've just delayed how long it's gonna stay there, correct?
Well, there's still the design process that needs to unfold in the permitting process. So regardless of when you buy the bridge, that process still needs to unfold. And it's not like we can go from 3 years down to 1 simply because this bridge is available. You still gotta follow that.
So I saw
Permitting
an
process.
email from Teagan Baum that said we could have it in 2 years from now.
We would range
It could
that,
be operational,
we would range that 2 to 3 years. There's a lot of coordination
but it
that's
could
still,
be 2 years according to your
if
email,
everything
correct?
went
Whether it
perfectly
went well.
smooth.
Other question, what about a one-way opening of the current bridge? Am I to understand that's never been investigated? No one has asked you whether that can be done without the use of the design vernacular bridge? You haven't done that analysis because you haven't been asked to. Is that fair or not? I don't know.
We have not done that analysis.
Could that analysis be something you could do, and would it be faster than any acro bridge?
We haven't seen the complete inspection report yet, so we don't understand.
Why not?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't understand, given the business you're in and what you're doing, and you got $137,000 from the town of Great Barrington. Why don't you have the report that the state did an inspection of? I guess it's just.
Joe,
mind-boggling.
okay, let them answer, Joe.
Yes, please.
So what Ty and Bond was doing for the town of Great Barrington was planning ahead for when the bridge, the temporary bridge at the business street was released, it would go there. It
Okay,
had nothing to do with examining the existing structures.
fair
Two
enough,
separate items.
fair enough.
Let's
But
wait,
why
no,
don't
no,
we
I'm
do
speaking.
that?
Okay, yeah, let him speak.
So, the other thing, the state inspection report was done in May. The inspection was done in May. The state has not, that's done by the state highway department, nothing to do with Ty and Bond, nothing to do with the town of Great Barrington.
No, I
Good,
understand.
let him finish, please,
No,
let
I
him
do
finish.
understand that. Thank you for
Yeah.
clarifying.
Joe, could you finish?
So that has not been released by the state in any fashion to the town of Great Barrington.
Then may I ask a question of Ms. Henning?
Go ahead.
So for almost a decade now, you've been sending inspection reports every other year requesting that the town do repairs. Is that a fair statement?
We are not actually saying that the town do the repairs. We write the reports, we send it to the town, and we tell them that they have deficiencies on the bridge. And if they have deficiencies, it is their responsibility to maintain that. So we send a copy of the inspection report, and we tell them repair, rehabilitation, reconstruction, or any other bridges to address the deficiency is the owner custodian responsibility. So the town decides what they need to do, not us.
I mean, I'm right that your responsibility though was to inspect the bridge every other year. Is that fair?
Is to inspect the bridge based on the condition and mandated frequency. Not necessarily every year. Like if the bridge is in good condition, you inspect it every 2 years. If it's an issue, it can be every year, but it's not mandated every year. Now that it's closed, yes, we will go and check it out every year or every 6 months. It depends.
This isn't gonna go well if everyone's interrupting.
I can't hear what you say, but that's what we do.
2019, and we're supposed to do it 2 years later. You did in 2021. You said it needed repairs, and this is a quote, as soon as possible. And yet you never did an inspection in 2023, and you were obligated to do one. You waited 3 years after saying it needed repair. So as I understand it, this is not just the town's problem, it's also the state's problem. You failed to do an inspection in 2 years. You failed to see if they did any repairs that you were telling them to do. And now you're in the position of making the determination whether the town, if they decide to do an interim repair so we can get across the bridge in less than 8 years, it's up to you to approve it. Are you going to approve an acro bridge or a one-way lane if we can get Teagan Bond and the town to agree to do that for us? Because you hold the ultimate decision, as I understand it.
So let me back up a little bit. The inspection cycle was every 2 years. So within the inspection was delayed to May for reasons with the assignments and consultants and the equipment needed to do the inspection. But that didn't take the fact that, you know, we inspected the bridge, we found additional deterioration and have to close the bridge and let inform the town of all that. In regarding to the placement of a temporary bridge, the designer will have to submit plans and calculation to us and go through a chapter 85. So if they, we don't have any issue with them, you know, putting an acro bridge or doing the extensive repair, whatever they need to do. But making repairs is not as simple because they will need to go through a process and approval. And if the process is correct and everything works, of course we will approve it.
The report was done on May 4th, 2023. Why don't they have a final report? Why don't we have a final report?
A final report of the inspection?
Yes.
Well, the inspection goes to the town.
So the town hasn't given it to Teagan Bond. Is that, we're just trying to find out the pieces
You
here.
said 2023.
It's 2023.
May of 2023.
May of 2024.
Right.
Sorry, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question you're asking Francesca is, where the report is.
So Francesca, the question, let me make it simple, is the report was May of 2024. When will that be available to the town?
Well, if the report is, if the bridge is inspected in 2024, you know, we will, and it's a consultant report, usually goes a period of back and forth. As soon as the report is ready, you know, we want to submit a report in 90 days, but sometimes it takes longer because it's the back and forth that goes on the review for the inspection. And if we have a deficiency, like when we're going to close the bridge, you know, we pick up the phone right away and we inform the municipality that something is going on. That's something too that we do. But the report, yes, we inspected it and they received the report in June.
So they have the report.
No, we do not have the
No, it's
report.
been 6 months, so that-
You have a report of in June 28 of the inspection.
Of the inspection, but the final report isn't done, correct?
So I wish you were here, Ms. Hemming, to see all the people here.
Could you just ask the question,
Yes,
please?
the question is, when are we gonna get this report that maybe can be given to Teagan Bond, that the town can get the benefit of seeing, and all of us can understand why it's taken 6 months? I understood Mark DeBelleville had the report and returned it.
He's got his hand raised. Yeah.
I don't know if Mark is on the.
Yeah, Mark is on. Let me,
Yeah.
Mark.
So
you have your
let
hand-
me say something. The inspection report was submitted to the town. It went to the town. So I'm surprised that you guys are saying you don't have it because even in all the asks
Joe, you-
that we
yeah, Joe,
received
do you
is
wanna
going
answer
to the
that? She's
town.
saying we have the report.
I don't have a report from the
Little
state.
louder, please.
Yeah. Say that again.
Speak up.
I don't have the report from the May inspection. I have to receive that.
I just have.
So, so no, we're gonna go to Mark DeVelder.
Mark, your mic is open if you want to go ahead. Mark from DOT. The mic is open.
Mark? He's calling, I think. Hold on 1 second, please. Can you see they're having you the floor?
They have a report. The report was emailed June 28th to the town for the inspection.
Okay, somehow he say you guys can hear him, but he's saying the phone. You can tell them, Mark.
The report was emailed to the town on June 28th.
Is that the final report?
Yes,
That is the inspection report. It's the routine and the fracture critical inspection report was emailed on June 28th.
But she's talking about a different report, I think. I think you're talking about a different report, Ms. Hemming, that they're still working on.
we are not working on additional report besides this one.
Okay, we'll get to the end of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Just in terms of getting over the river as quickly as we possibly can, is there a way that the town would be willing to hire Teagan Bond or another engineering firm, I don't care who you hire, to assess if there's a faster way than using an acro bridge to do some type of structural repair that would allow us to open a one lane, one way immediately? It would cost you less, it would be faster. It sounds to me like that hasn't been explored. Is that right?
Mark, you know.
Correct. We have not explored that option in detail.
And if we did explore it and it was feasible, it would be quicker, cheaper and faster or not?
Not necessarily.
But maybe?
We would need to do the evaluation to determine that.
So Dan, you've been pretty straightforward in the past. I'm asking you right now, if you were us and you had an 81-year-old who was sick at home and you were worried about 30 minutes for an EMT, would you want the town to explore that option, given what you know?
It is up for the town to make decisions.
Could you just ask the question, please, without embellishing?
It's up to you. I'm asking you, would we be reasonable in
We
asking for that?
would be happy to evaluate that if we were requested to evaluate.
And you wouldn't take our money if you didn't think there was something worth investigating, right? That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go right ahead. Just state your name and address.
My name is Mel Kalis. I live at 103 Brush Hill Road. And first, I want to thank the select board and our guests for coming out tonight. I know, it's an evening meeting and I really appreciate it. We've been looking for answers since May. And it's so nice to be able to have you all here to be able to provide the answers. And hi, neighbors. And I'm Earl. So you guys have the report. It was sent to Joe Aberdale. I got it as a part of the public records request. I physically have a copy of it at my house, if you would like me to send it. Here.
Could you just ask the question, please?
Oh, so the question is, now that we've established that you have the report and I can copy it and bring it back to you, can we get it to Tig and Bob so they can evaluate whether we can, in fact, open one lane of the bridge for emergency only, because this is our big concern.
So what we'll do,
Yes,
we'll ascertain if that's the correct report. 'Cause
Yes.
no one here knows what report we have, if that's the final report or not.
okay,
And then we will decide what the cost will be for tie and bond, and then if it's appropriate, we will do that.
yeah, because I put in a request for information and that was a
Yeah.
part of the records I picked up
Okay.
last week.
We're not sure that's the final, so we'll figure it out.
My next question is for Smitty and hopefully eventually for Lee. Would it be possible in the world to, redirect the money for the Cottage Street Bridge to the Brookside Road Bridge? Because our bridge, getting an acro bridge on our side, we think should be a higher priority because of emergency services.
I think that's a better question for Francesca to answer.
Hey, Francesca.
So we'll ask her. Francesca, did you hear the question?
Yes, I'm going to defer to Rob.
Sure,
because he
I'll
deals
help
with
you
the
with
program
that.
for
So,
that.
the replacement bridge funding is not an issue. We have the funding, we have the money for the replacement bridge. The temporary bridge is a different story because that would be the town's, I believe that would be the town looking to do a temporary bridge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So that money would not come from us for the temporary bridge. The money, as it stands now, that will not be an issue holding up this project. It's a matter of getting it designed. It's a particular type of bridge that we typically have sufficient funding to get them done, when they're ready, which is an off-system bridge, which are these smaller roads. We have a really tougher time finding money, surprisingly, for what's called on-system non-NHS bridges, which are like the major roads that are not interstate highways. Those are very difficult to get funding for. But the way that bridge funding works, there are certain set-asides for local roads because they don't want smaller communities to be disadvantaged. And we typically have sufficient funds for these types of bridges. And as it stands now, I don't see any issue with getting funding when this project is ready to go to replace this bridge.
So what's the? Okay, thank you, but I do have one more question, and then it's about the accelerated bridge program. Now, we have heard there's something called the accelerated bridge program, which would hurry up the replacement bridge by a factor of X.
Okay.
Does the Great Barrington qualify?
That's
for-
different. That is accelerated techniques, not an accelerated bridge program. You
I'll
want
give
to
you
talk
one.
about
The
the program?
Accelerated Bridge Program was a funding mechanism that was used a decade ago to make sure that funding was available for projects. Again, funding is not an issue here. When it comes to accelerated bridge techniques, like prefabricated members and all that, we've already spoken to Benesh and are encouraging them to use those techniques whenever possible to accelerate this project. A big part of the issue here is, and I know we've given you guys numbers that are a very wide range. And while that would seem unacceptable, I'll tell you why that is. Right now, we don't know anything about this bridge as far as, survey has to happen to determine, how much space is available for a new bridge. The abutments, they need to be tested. Can they be reused? Do we have to replace those? There's a lot of environmental issues in the Housatonic River, as I'm sure you're all aware of. There's going to be we're anticipating a lot of environmental permits that have to happen here. It's not the sort of project we'd want to put a pier in the river because that would actually delay the project longer. Until we look at the type, and there's a whole study that needs to happen to even understand what types of bridges could span this distance. We're assuming it's not going to be a truss bridge. It's probably going to be some sort of multi-beam that's going to go here. We're evaluating whether those things can be trucked in, ready-made onto the site or not. These are all things that need to be studied. This is like a 150-foot long span. That's kind of beyond the limit of what you would normally truck in, but you can look at the roadways and see if they can make it, where it's coming from. We have to make sure these things are all possible before saying what can be done here. So that's part of it. There's a lot of testing that has to happen to find out, can the substructures be reused or do they need to be replaced? And then if they are replaced, what kind of soils are going to be there that are going to be disturbed, and what has to happen with that stuff? And survey, do we own the property? How far out do we own? There's talk about putting a sidewalk through for the new bridge for future use. Is that going to fit in? I know it's on embankment. That could affect, right of way. You have what is potentially called Article 97 protected land. It's like parkland or conservation land. If we impact that land, we have to go to the legislature and get 2/3 of the legislature to say that we can actually take that land to use for something other than the purposes they're using now. There's no guarantee when or how that happens. Or actually, I think the town has to do that. The town is going to be responsible for any right of way here. These are all things we don't know how big of an issue they're going to be yet. And that's why these numbers are so wide ranged, because, we're looking at the worst case and we're looking at the best case. And right now, until Benesh gets out there and starts doing the studies and doing the research and things that need to happen beforehand, pretty much until we get to a 25% plan, which is what we're talking about in August 26th, is when we're anticipating to have that and have a lot more answers. And it's unfortunate we don't have more for you now, but we don't know, these answers yet until the engineers start digging into the issues and doing the testing and finding out what is exactly there, not what we assume is there or hope is there.
So your estimate is in August 2026, the report will have been submitted by Benish and then available for analysis.
So that would be the 25% plans would be coming around those times. At that time, we would typically have, and I guarantee we'll have it in this case, we would have a public meeting where we would
Yeah.
present those plans. I've even told Banesh that we're anticipating meeting before those are finalized to look at the options that we're looking at. We understand this is a very charged and important crossing here, and we want to be as open and get the feedback from the folks that it's impacting as much as possible. So I've had those discussions with Banesh and told them that they need to make sure that the communication lines are open. And as soon as we have good information, we're not just guessing, they need to come out to the community and tell them what we know. Unfortunately, it's going to take a long time to get to that point.
And they're in full coordination with our friends at Tigan Bond, right?
Yes, and we're lucky that, and Ty and Bond was not, they were not excluded from this because we have any thoughts about their ability to do the work. We are under certain mandates when we take federal money on how we need to procure consultants for projects. And unfortunately, in this case, we need to go with someone other than Ty and Bond. That does not stop Ty and Bond necessarily from working for Banesh as a sub, which I believe is happening in this case. I can't tell Banesh what to do, but I think they're making the right decisions. And I believe that they are working with Ty and Bond as a sub-consultant so that as much information that can be shared and not recreate is being done.
All right, thank you very much. And I just want to say one more thing, and that is we, the residents and members of the Brookside Neighbors Group are willing to help in any way we can
Thank you.
and work with the select board, with Division 1, with Smitty, with hopefully Lee, with, Ty and Bond, to anything that we can do to help you, help us. We are so there for you. Thank you.
Well, I believe I believe you guys have a town meeting. Is that correct? Is that how your government works?
That's correct.
So if there are land takings, that's going to have to go through town meeting and get town meeting approval. That is typically a step that can take a significant amount of time, especially if there's not community support. That is definitely something that the members that live in this area that are concerned about this project can attend the town meeting and make sure that when it comes time for that to get passed, that they show up in support of it.
Can that be passed just in case? In other words, it's irrevocable if the town decides not to go forward?
Unfortunately, we cannot do that because our federal guidelines require us to know exactly what land is being taken before we take the land, so to speak. I don't know if the town has ability to do things differently on their end, but I know that we can't, until we know what is actually needed for the project, because we don't take land lightly from, because it's kind of like eminent domain stuff. We don't do that lightly. We try to minimize impacts. We try to make sure that that we're not taking land unnecessarily. So we can't do anything on that front. I don't know. I'll leave it up to your folks there to know what, the guidelines are for your town meeting, whether you need to have those plans or not. But I think typically those plans are needed before that step can happen.
Thank you.
Good, Joe.
So, Rob, just so we can align everybody's expectations here, your plans is to turn around and have a 25% set plans ready around August of 2026.
Yes, that's based on discussions. Now, these are very preliminary discussions that we've had with Banesh. We don't know what the environmental issue, we have a sense of what the environmental issues are here. We don't know for sure. We know about the Housatonic River and the kind of things that are in it. We're trying to minimize the root on going through. So we don't make that worse than it needs to be. We're going on some assumptions there. That's their best guess at a number right now. Could that be sooner? It could. Could it be longer? It could. It all depends on when we start getting into a testing of soils, testing of the abutments. Can they be reused? Doing the survey. Where is the right of way currently? How much leeway do we have? These are all questions that need to be answered before we have a better number. And we will certainly be communicating, through the district, to the town when we have better numbers on that.
So is it fair to say that August with the 25% plans coming through is when the town will know the land that has to be acquired?
It should be around that time. Typically that's when the right-of-way plans will get developed as part of that. That needs to go through a process. We have a right-of-way group here that needs to approve those and work with the town on getting, what is required, or is additional survey needed, is right-of-way needed, is Article 97 needed. Could be a wide range of things that need to happen after that. But that at the 25%, we should have a set of right-of-way plans where we can move forward with, moving towards the acquisition. And it should be a pretty good indication of what we're expecting is needed.
So Steve and Mark, that puts us into the May 27 meeting at the soonest to take.
But it's not for an
Oh, can we finish, please?
Again, the process, especially with the chapter 97 land, it takes an act of, the government to make it happen. So it might be somewhat skeptical thinking we're even going to get there.
Right. Yeah.
Hi, Rob,
Yes.
just for clarification, are you talking about a permanent bridge? You're not talking about an acro bridge?
We're
right?
talking about the permanent bridge. We
Oh,
have nothing to do with the Acro Bridge. We are looking at replacing the bridge with a new bridge, potentially with new abutments and everything, and having accommodation for a future sidewalk to go across the bridge as well.
Okay, so for us, and I think I speak for all my
No,
neighbors,
speak for yourself.
and I speak for myself, I want to get across the river. And we want to do it in the quickest way possible, either through repair or through an acro bridge.
So let me answer part of that.
Okay.
We don't know how long. First of all, Mark has already said that in the budget this year, he will put in the budget a proposal, which has to go to the finance committee and the select board, and then through town meeting to finance that. Second of all, as far as the repairs, we don't have an idea. That hasn't been done yet. We said we would go back and look whether it's worth to investigate that or not. Joe, what's the permitting process, if you know, for a temporary bridge? Is it very similar?
Well, I'll refer that to the end.
Thank you.
It's a little more streamlined with the approach that we were taking, which is similar to Division Street. We try to do all the work outside the waterway and reuse the abutments, so we're not disturbing the soils. So to Rob's point, there are likely contaminated soils here. So if you had to go through that process, that would be longer. There's also endangered species in this area. So that needs to be considered. I think there's a fish and some clams, mussels. So that's all.
And we don't,
Timeline that needs to be figured out.
and we don't have to go through the whole Article 97 from the temporary bridge, but we do have to have the appropriate conversations with them because there's trees that are gonna have to be trimmed back and stuff to take the old bridge out and put a temporary bridge in. So again, that could add some time.
Okay, so could we focus that on either on a repair or a replacement with an acro bridge?
So-
Probably.
So let me answer this one. So as I explained to you previously,
Yeah.
there are two parallel processes going on here. So everyone is clear about it. One is whatever we can do that's quick to get a bridge in there, and quick is in air quotes, and I don't usually use them because there's nothing quick about this process. We know that. But do it, not anyone's fault, but there are regulations. So one is there would either be a repair to this bridge, which you brought up, or a temporary bridge. That's probably gonna be our fastest route. And then the other would be the permanent bridge. Both of those are being looked at. Nothing is quick, but we are looking at that. We're preparing for funding on it. We know funding is not an issue on the permanent. Now we're looking at working on funding. So this is the first of, we'll have more meetings like this where we'll continue to have more information, but we thought, and people ask questions, and that's why we provided this. So we will keep moving on this. Joe, go ahead.
If I could add, it's not that a repair has not been looked at. A repair was discussed when, after the bridge was shut down, there was a scoping meeting that was had that was going down the path of a possible preservation of that existing bridge. Quickly, with Ty and Bond on the phone and all the professionals from Mass Highway, all the way up to the top bridge engineer that was on there, they quickly said this bridge isn't worth repairing. And they quickly changed to go to put a new bridge in. So we could also, you know, if there's money available or approved, we could hire Ty and Bond to go back and double check it, send it to Mass Highway for their reviews and approvals to do it. So some of the highest professionals in the state have already looked at that bridge and said it's not worth repairing. But I just so people know that you're talking, you didn't look at it.
Well, yeah, for us, I think, I mean, do we get a say in this? Because we're winter now. So pretty soon you won't even be able to do any work or looking at, you know, soil and water and all of that, because everything's gonna be frozen and snow and ice. So now we're looking at April, starting work.
No, we're actually looking later than that because, that's why you guys, people have to understand what Mark had said. Mark said he's proposing to turn around and put this in as a discussion item for the budget process. The budget gets, if it makes it through the select board and the finance committee and voted to be on, and voted amongst those groups to be on the town warrant, then the town meeting votes on it in May. That budget doesn't start till July 1. So you don't have any money till July 1 if it goes that process. So you're not starting now, you're not starting in April, you're not starting in May. You're lucky if you start in July 1. I'm not trying to break the red news, but I don't want y'all here, you know, in May saying, why didn't you start?
So we will come back. We will look at those. You have a question?
Yes, I do. Paul Zydock, 111 Brush Hill Road.
Thank you.
As I understand what you're saying, the only real possibility short of a permanent replacement is a new Acro Bridge. Is that what you're saying? That's what we need to get a budget for.
I think we should take, an intern step and reconvene with Mass Highway, locate this report, look at it real good. I'm sure it's gonna take depths and thicknesses of all the metals that are there. And really see if it's worth exploring this, you know, maybe ask Mass Highway to participate with us, get time on there, look at it amongst the professionals. Do you think this is worth it?
Do I understand that a new Acro Bridge is not using the Division Street Bridge? It's buying a separate bridge, which will have to be longer from Acro and getting it done as soon as possible.
So I think you heard here, there was two things that were looked at. If Division Street moved along, if we knew the schedule of Division Street and it became available, because you're not putting an Acro panel bridge in there in July. Okay, if we turn around and make it through this whole budget process and we're successful in getting it through and the town voters vote on it. At that point there, we're gonna start some design work, or maybe we can start some design work ahead of time. You're not putting a shovel in the ground in July. Okay, it's because you're not designing, you're not permitted.
Do you have any idea when the bridge from Division Street would be available to move?
I don't, I do know that we received 25% plans about a week ago, which is the steps that Francesca and Bob spoke on. So it's into the town for review at this point. Maybe they can help us a little better with that timing.
So let me ask Bob or Francesca, where are we on the Division Street Bridge? What the timeline for that? Not to put you on the spot.
Question, Francesca?
Can I run this? Just humor me. Thank you. Do either of you want to speak on that?
I'm not involved in that project right now, so I couldn't give you an answer right now. I don't know if Francesca can.
Thank you.
I have a
I'm
feeling
just
she's looking
checking,
it up. Yeah.
I'm just checking a data to find out for the advertisement date. But the division Street Bridge is, I know it's moving forward, but let me check some numbers.
Hold on, Francesca. We're not gonna have side conversations. Please sit down. Please. Okay, go ahead.
No, I just was just going to check some numbers on one of
Yeah,
the
thank
to find out the sad date, but I can follow up and let you know.
Okay, thank you, Francesca. We have someone online. Mark, can you let Nora Fernandez speak, please? Just state your name and address.
Here, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'm Nora Fernandez. I'm on 115 Brush Hill Road. And I have a question for Mass DOT, Mr. Rob. I heard the news that you're saying we have the money for a new bridge. I think those are very good news. My question is, if you have the money and you have retained an engineering firm to start doing the design, have any testing been already started? Because you're talking about testing that is required, correct? I'm an
Yes.
architect, so I'm asking this question
No,
because the first thing we do is geotech reports and soil studies when we do a new building. And this is the same, in my opinion, similar, right?
yes.
So have testing been started since the money is there from what you said?
No, none of that has been started yet. We have what's called a scoping meeting, which is where we get all the experts in the room and we look at the bridge and decide what's the most likely path to move forward. And from that, we develop a scope to get to 25% with the consultant. That is what has happened so far. From that, they develop their cost estimate, their contract gets approved, then they essentially start their work. They are at that point right now where they're just about to start the actual work, and all the preliminary work has basically been done ahead of giving them the notice to proceed, which I anticipate is going to come anytime.
Okay, thank you. So following up with that question would be if they are going to start then soon, probably, or hopefully, is the
Yes.
time frame of what you're talking for the 25% design seems, in my opinion, and based on my experience of doing high-rise buildings in the city in New York,
Yeah.
a bit too extended, to say calmly, because any developer would just freak out if he has to wait 18 months to get just a preliminary 25% design. It really sounds outrageous.
I know it does, but also that's also why developers don't like working on brownfields. They don't like environmental permits. They don't like they can't do right of way. They have to buy things from people.
We have done that. We have done that too. And it has never taken so long.
But
we have dealt with all the agencies.
Let him answer, please.
We have a standard template schedule that I'm sure you would love to look at, which is on our website. If you Google mass dot, I'm trying to think what if you look at mass dot bridge project schedule template.
Okay.
You can look at, there's a couple of different templates in there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at what all the steps are and what takes time rather. And I'm sure as a design professional, you will understand, it's a Gantt chart. You'll understand what's in there.
Okay, I appreciate that, because I have the impression that, replacing an existing structure in general seems to be easier than starting from zero, on a new project where there are a lot of things that are unknowns. In this case, we have, I believe, some advantage in those terms. So that's why I found that schedule a bit extended.
I have a hard time understanding why things take us so long as well, but it's grounded in reality and what our actual requirements are. And, we have to follow the letter of law. We don't get
of course, we all do that. Now, my other question, if you had already a scoping meeting, means are you probably gonna demolish this bridge, correct? Is
So
it
no,
gonna happen?
the scoping meeting is to get us to 25% design.
But in
That's
that
the-
design, the consideration is that it be replaced, so it needs to be demolished.
Yes,
So who's gonna be responsible for that? Is that part of that scope? I mean, it's gonna be
Yes.
there? Is that in
Yes.
that
that's
time
all part
frame?
of that would be part of the project, would be demolish, properly dispose of everything there, including any environmental, contaminated soils and things like that that are required to be gotten rid of. All of that becomes part of the project. What the town is typically responsible for in a project like that, because it's a town-owned bridge,
Mm-hmm.
any right of way that needs to be obtained is the town's responsibility to get the permissions and or money to do that. Also, if there are extras outside of the bridge project, which I don't think is going to happen here, because nobody's going to want to hold this project up with, fancy lights on it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, understood. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we're gonna move, we have a meeting ahead of us, so the select board, I'm gonna give them a chance to ask a couple of questions while the content experts are here, and then we'll move on. We will continue this. Lee, go ahead, I'll just move down the
Okay,
line.
sure. I just wanted to go back to the question of an alternative assessment. If, you said that on your very first meeting, I think this was before June 28th, that there was quite a few folks on the line and you all agreed that there was no chance of repair. But this was before you received the June 28th inspection report. So I'm just wondering, is there a way to actually verify that there is no?
They're gonna come back to us for that.
I think it's worth revisiting the conversation with Fire Bond and
Yeah.
Mass Highway. If there's any thought that there is a potential to revitalize something at a quicker path.
Yeah.
And the professionals say so, I think I would recommend to the board and Mark that we try.
So that or a one-lane bridge, so either, fixing it or,
Half of the one lane
Yeah.
is already kind of nailed down. Mark said he was gonna do, but if this rehabilitation that shows any light of day, we should talk about it.
okay. So I guess, if we have a timeline, if we can say, okay, that's our number one priority, because, obviously this will be the quickest path. So how do we set that in motion?
So let me ask this question. It seems like it's a given among people here that revitalizing the bridge is the quickest path. I'm not so sure it is, so, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit to that point. So I just want to make sure there are no misconceptions that the bridge would just be repaired.
No.
So you would have to do an assessment to understand what repairs would need to be made. We need to understand what the load carrying capacity of these deteriorated elements is. And so that requires a lot of data collection, a lot of additional analysis. And then once the objective is understood, is it to put a single lane on the bridge, one lane traffic, making sure that we're able to achieve that with a repair, costing that out. And then this still needs to go through the Mass DOT Chapter 85 approval process. So that also takes time. It still needs to go through environmental permitting. That also still takes time. So there is still a lot of work associated with a repair. It's not necessarily going to be the fastest, most cost-effective solution. So I just wanted to put some of this additional information out there for consideration so that it's not a misconception that the repair is necessarily going to be the fastest, most cost-effective solution.
Okay, but it seems like that's the first path we should look at, some kind of
I
alternative.
think we'll look at
assessment.
all three.
Yes, but this seems to be the quickest path. Yeah.
Okay, I understand. We understand. Eric, go ahead, if you have anything.
So I guess this might be for Rob or whoever. I am definitely no engineer or anything. I just pull wires, but in our trade, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary solution. So if we did go with whether it be a fix or the temporary new one-lane bridge, what would happen to the monies for the complete replacement as far as from the state side of things?
So certainly if you fix the bridge, it's not going to change anything because that bridge is still, you know, essentially needs to be replaced. If you have a temporary bridge saying over the existing one, that also, I don't think that's going to change, you know, anything. This is pretty high on our radar. I don't see either solution really changing the priority for this project still happening. I think there's, I don't want to bring this up, but there's probably more likelihood that global bridge funding may change because of other political events than anything happening with us changing the priority of this project.
Okay, thank you. Garfield, do you have anything?
I need something cleared up for myself as well. You said there, when will this, well, I'm asking, I want to know when will the study be done? You tell me you have all the information for the study, so why aren't we starting it?
What study are we talking about?
For the Tri-County after bridge? Oh, I'm sorry, something else.
So you're talking
You
about Rob?
mentioned- Go ahead.
Are you talking about Rob and the study for?
Yes.
Yeah, Rob.
Okay, yeah, I mean, there are steps that we need to take that are mandated by state law, getting, you know, consultant under contract. Those things take time. We cannot legally tell a consultant, well, no, we could, I guess we could tell them to do it. We can't legally pay a consultant that isn't under contract to us. And there are steps that we need to take in order for that to happen. So unfortunately, by state law, we are required to do all the steps to get them under contract, as is your municipality. I'm sure they know how difficult it is and all the steps that have to go through, you know, to get a contract underway. Those are steps that have to happen before we can direct them to start any work.
A couple more things. One is, you said we do need to do all these things, take all these steps, et cetera. You've mentioned them. So why aren't we doing them? Why aren't we doing that?
Well, was that a question for me? Excuse me?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay,
You
no,
said-
I'm sorry. There's a little bit of a.
I couldn't hear the
Yeah,
question
I couldn't hear
myself.
the
So.
question. It came a little
You had
garbled.
mentioned it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please. Tell me your question. I didn't catch it.
You had mentioned that there are things that need to be done. We need to speak to an engineer, et cetera. Maybe it's the wrong word at the moment, but these are all things that need to be done with the urgency with this bridge being out and the trouble it's causing. Why can't we do that now instead of waiting to ask these questions of whomever needs to be asked?
Well, I mean, we did have the scoping meeting, which determines the direction of the scope. Until the consultant has an approved scope and that is approved and they have a signed contract, they legally, by state law, can't work on the project. That's why we're not doing it, because it's against the law.
So Rob, let me ask you this question, because I think the crux of this, is that being worked on?
Yes, yes. I think we're very close to having a signed contract. I checked with the PM yesterday, or sorry, not yesterday, before the
We're
weekend.
getting the NTP in December.
Yeah. So
Okay,
we're
and then
expecting
one
that
other
next
thing-
month.
Thank you.
I have one other thing, and I'm hoping that everyone here doesn't bite my head off. But I just want to remind you, when someone mentioned that you have an 81-year-old person who needs help. Now, I'm not telling you this is the solution. I'm not telling you this is the best idea, but with the thought, what we had brought to the thought of using Tri-County, they can take a stretcher across that bridge. If you're at your house, you call them and tell them, I'll be down at the bridge, bring the stretcher across, and then you can go ahead and take care of your business. I think that's important. It is one way to get things, not saying it's the best, but they'll say you can go all around the mulberry bush, when you can drive right down to where the camp is. There's nothing is needed, you don't need permission, and have the ambulance meet you on the other side of the bridge.
Thank you, Garfield. Ben, please. We're almost done with this.
Rob, I just want to follow up on Eric's question, just to get it clear. Pursuing a temporary span does not affect either state funding or timeline for current bridge. That's correct.
It should not, you know, I mean, it may, speed up construction a little bit because maybe some of the demolition is already taken care of. It's going to be depend on what's done out there, but it should not have a major effect.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna take one last question, someone online, then we're gonna move ahead with our meeting. So Evan, go ahead briefly, please, because I'm not sure I saw your hand up before I went to the select board. Just unmute yourself, Evan. Okay. Yeah, we're trying. I have two hands up. Okay, so I'm gonna move ahead now. We have the rest of the meeting to go ahead. Does Francesca get her hand up?
She did.
Yeah, I
Francesca,
just was going to
ahead.
go back to the Division Street Bridge
Yes,
to let you know that it is at 25% is under review. Once we are everything, done for the 25%, a public hearing will be scheduled with the town. But the project is on track for advertisement in June 27 of 2026.
June
So
of
which means that,
2026.
you can have a bridge under construction in fall of 2026. If
Fall of
advertised, if everything goes smooth and it gets the advertisement on June 2026, you'll be under construction in the fall.
Thank you, Francesca.
Just wanted to confirm that so people know that timeline.
Thank you. Evan, I'll give you one last chance. It looks like you're unmuted. Okay, we're gonna take a 2-minute break because I'm sure many people don't want
Hello?
to stay for our meeting. Oh, go ahead. Real
Hi,
briefly,
my name is
please.
Evan. I live at 1720 Home Road. And I don't know if this was addressed earlier before I joined in. Is there any chance?
Are you a Great Barrington resident?
My address says Great Barrington 01230.
Are you a Great Barrington resident?
That's what my address says.
You're not a Sheffield resident?
The mail comes to me as Great Barrington.
You're- Okay, we're gonna take a 2-minute break.
Really?
Because that's not our mailing, that's our mailing.
That's a mailing address. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. You'd say that anyway.
No.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciated your last question because you really, really are. That's exactly where we are. We're just.
I'm gonna keep on that.
I'm just.
Are you all set with us? We must dot.
Francesca, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So you're all set. And if you guys need anything, please reach out. I think we should, if you need anything from the end.
Thank you, Francesca. Probably prayers.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you. Okay. Once I leave. Okay, the meeting is coming back in order, please. I think I've completely lost control. Thank you. Okay, Ross, where are you? Come on up to the microphone. I'm gonna close the doors and we're gonna get going.
I like this.
Okay.
So in your packets for, this evening was an executive summary prepared by, our principal assessor, Ross Vivori, and he's here tonight to walk you through that for tax classification. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So it's that time of the year again, for the classification hearing. At the classification hearing, the select board prepared a vote to implement a combination of 4 classification options for distribution of the tax levy of non-property owners. Open space, residential exemption, small commercial exemption, a single or third tax. Town currently has a single tax rate with no exemptions or discounts given to specific classes of property. A vote to grant discounts and exemptions in specific property classes will result in a higher tax rate for non-qualifying property owners as the tax burden is shifted away from.
I'm sorry, so you think we just put a microphone towards you?
Of course, just speak a little louder.
Louder?
We'll be having plenty of help.
Okay. A vote in favor of more than one option will result in a different tax rate for different property classes. Regardless of the classification option chosen, the amount of the overall tax levy would not change. Historically, as part of their annual budget policy, the Select Board Finance Committee have endorsed a single tax rate option, providing no exemption or discounts to particular property classes or groups. Voting in residential factor of 1 firms a single tax rate in the proportionate share of the tax levy between all classes of property. Voting for a residential factor of less than 1 would split the tax rate, thereby shifting the tax burden away from the residential class and onto commercial, industrial, and personal property owners. 2 separate class rates would be created, a lower tax rate for residential and open space, and another higher tax rate for commercial, industrial, and personal property. Land enrolled in chapter subject to the higher tax rate as it would be classified as commercial for taxation purposes. I want to go through each one of these.
Briefly.
Open space is land maintained in an open natural condition and must contribute significantly to the benefit of the enjoyment of the public. It does not include land taxable under provision chapter 61, 61A, or 61B lands with permanent conservation restrictions or lands held for the production of income. Open space discount is up to 25% from the selected residential factor. By discounting a certain percentage of the value attributed to open space, the tax levy burden is shifted on to residential ratepayers, thereby increasing the tax rate. Presently, no lands are classified as open space because those might benefit receive a greater discount by enrollment in chattel land option. Residential exemption grants an exemption to properties that is the principal residence or domicile of the taxpayer under Mass General Law 9, Section 5C. The exemption amount may not exceed 35% of the average assessed value of all residential properties. Barrington increases the tax rate as it shifts the tax burden within the entire residential class away from lower value owners occupied dwellings to dwellings valued at a higher than break-even point. Multi-family properties, apartment buildings, vacant land, and non-domicile property owners. Properties of domicile taxpayers valued below the break-even will pay fewer taxes, while those that at a higher tax rate will pay more. Currently, only about 351 Massachusetts communities grant a residential exemption. These communities are typically large cities or towns with many non-owner occupied properties like apartment buildings, resort communities with those seasonal residents, Boston, Brookline, Cambridge, Somerville, and Chelsea. Or just unfortunately a large number of second homeowners like the Cape and Island communities. Small commercial exemption. A small commercial exemption may be applied to certain commercial properties whose assessment is less than $1 million and occupied by businesses certified with the Department of Employment and Training as having no more than an average of 10 employees in the previous year. If adopted, up to 10% of the assessed value of an eligible property would be exempt. The property owner is the direct beneficiary of the tax saving and is not required to pass the savings onto the tenants. The total gross value of the small commercial exemption is redistributed to the non-qualifying commercial owners in the form of a higher tax rate. Split or single tax rate. Adopting a single tax rate requires the select board to vote to maintain a residential factor of 1. A single tax rate allows for all classes of property to pay their share of the tax levy without shifting the tax burden to any particular property class. Voting to split the tax rate shifts the tax burden from the residential class to the commercial, industrial, and personal property classes and requires the select board to vote for a residential factor of less than 1. The minimum residential factor for the town is set by the Department of Revenue is 0.830806, which allows for a CIP shift of 1.5. So for fiscal 25, some of the notable things is our levy for this year is $30,006,723. And that's a 7.93% change from the previous year. So the amount that we're levying is $30,066,273, and that's an increase of $2,023,023. Again, that's a 7.93 increase. The total taxable value is $2,175,977,048. So you can see under the total taxable value, what the residential class was at $1,807,814,081. The commercial class was $280,000, $80,456,347. Industrial was $14,599,500, and the personal property is $70,107,120, which totals of $2,175,977,048, which overall gives an 8.71 increase. The tax rate for fiscal 25 again will be going down to 10% from 1389 to 1379. And that's due to the increase in residential values, which, as you know, just continue to go up because the market, is driving them up. And we have to be within plus or minus that 10% of the market for Department of Revenue guidelines and the methodology for mass appraisal. Our excess levy capacity for fiscal 25 is $18,143. New growth this year. We had a little over 20, we had 20,992,160 in growth. That breaks down to 9,551,900 residential. 622,700 commercial. No growth was seen in industrial. And personal property growth was 10,817,560, which in tax dollars, based on last year's tax rate, was $291,581 in tax revenue. That's based on last year's tax rate. So what does that mean? And you'll note that this was revised from the one that was in the packet earlier, only because we had to change just the median on this thing. So for fiscal 25, the median value for a residential home is $481,700, which translates to a median tax of $6,643, and that's a $530 change over last year. The average assessed value is $601,443, with an average tax of $8,294, and that's a $673 change for whole year over last year. And from the commercial side, the median value was $555,500. Median tax, $7,660. And that actually dropped the change from last year by minus $199. The average commercial value was $888,268. The average commercial tax is $12,263, and that's an $804 change from the previous year.
Thank you. Before we ask the select board, is anybody in the audience who wants to speak? Michael, go ahead. Name and address, you know, that's really. Okay,
Wise, 173 Castle Street. This is not the first time I've addressed the select board about this issue. Over the years, I've done it 2 or 3 times. Question might arise though, why is this issue important right now? The question is the residential exemption. I'm here to propose to encourage you to adopt it at the time for reasons I'll explain, and in a way I'll explain toward the end. The reason it's important now is affordability, which has always been a problem, has always been the reason to do it, is even more of a problem now, even more of a crisis. The residential exemption lowers the cost of housing for the people who most need that help. We also have extraordinary expenditures facing the town. Likely we'll need to raise some taxes. The exemption enables us to raise more revenue while moderating the effects of tax increases. What is lacking from the discussion often is a simple numerical picture of the effect. If we adopted the residential exemption, it would cut the tax bills of 90% if homeowners living in Great Barrington. If we adopted the seasonal community rate, which I'll explain in a minute, we could save some people 50% on their tax bills. These are not insignificant numbers. If we adopted the exemption at the top 35% rate that Ross referred to, the median value home in town would save $1,200. That's 20% on its taxes. By the way, my numbers are 2024 numbers. I didn't have the 2025 numbers to update it. They will be in the same order of magnitude. The typical home would save 28% on its taxes. By a typical home, I mean the most commonly found value in town. I had a clever graphic here on a PowerPoint, which I'll describe to you, rather than put it up there because I don't have it. The median value home is the one where half the people are below, half are above. That median value home will save 20%. The typical value home, though, is valued below that level. That would save 28%. Even if we only had a 10% exemption, the median, the typical home would save 7%. It's been the break-even value, the break-even phenomenon has been referred to. Putting a number on that, I think, could be valuable. In Great Barrington, that number is about $700,000, which means that everyone with a home valued, living in a home valued, owning and living in a home valued under $700,000 would get a break. It's also important to note that about half the properties valued over that level are second homes. The seasonal community thing is new, worth a little explanation. One of the features of being a seasonal community is one can adopt a residential exemption at up to 50%. Where there are more than 40% second homes, that seasonal community status is automatic. There are 4 towns in southern Berkshire County that qualify right now. Even if the share of second homes is lower, as it is in Great Barrington, it's in the teens. One can be a seasonal community if you demonstrate a high rate of short-term rentals, an increase in seasonal visitors, disparity between median income and median home price, high proportion of housing not used as primary residence, high seasonal variation in employment. Smitty was asked about this earlier, not here, but earlier this fall. He opined that every town in South Berkshire could qualify as a seasonal community. And thus set the rate high enough to save some people half of their tax bill. A couple of possible objections. Why would we want to be the first? It's true, this is most often used in the Boston area, which is urban, unlike Berkshire County, but it's also often used on the Cape, which is seasonal, very much like southern Berkshire County. Someone does have to go first and show the way, but Monterey, Stockbridge, Egremont, Alfred are also prime candidates for this new seasonal communities rate. The objection is said, is this unfair? And I say the answer to that is no. It treats different situations differently, and that is, I think, by definition, fair. Will it hurt seniors? No, there are at least 4 other programs available out there to help seniors who are trying to age in place. The new one we have not adopted, very much like this residential exemption, giving seniors who qualify under certain criteria an additional $110,000 exemption off of their property value for taxation. The only seniors on fixed incomes who are likely to pay more are people like me. For the renters, this is an issue. Many of the rental units in town are duplexes and triplexes. The last time I looked at this in great detail, they would all qualify the exemption where there's the owner living in one of the units, and most of the time it's true. However, rental units without the exemption would face higher costs, and the suggestion there is to petition for home rule legislation like Provincetown has to exempt properties that are occupied by full-time renters. That would require a town meeting vote to petition for that legislation. So my suggestion to you is to adopt a residential exemption at a low rate, say 10%, to demonstrate seriousness, to petition the legislature for that home rule relief for renters, to apply for seasonal community status, and then see where we are in a year or two and see whether you want to increase the rate.
Thank you, Michael. Ann O'Dwyer. Go ahead, Ann.
Ann O'Dwyer, 26 Kirk Street. Michael, I really appreciate your presentation. I just want to speak to that presentation. And I'm wondering if it'd be possible to, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It'd be possible to get some of the data and statistics that you talked about now, if you could send that to some of us. I wouldn't mind if the finance committee would have a chance to look at that. But I just wanted to clarify the single median and average single family home values. And I know Phil had emailed Ross about the 2024 numbers. Have those been updated on the handout at the meeting, or?
Yes.
Okay, and so what are the correct numbers for 2024?
440, 100 on the median for the group
Okay,
homes, and 566, 600 on the commercial. I'll send it, man.
I'm sorry. 500, where's the commercial on the?
What's the number?
Yeah, I'm sorry. So what you guys have at the meeting is different than what's in the packet. Is that correct?
Send it out to us this evening, yes.
Okay, so will that be updated on the posting on the website?
Yes.
Okay, all right, then I'll look at that then. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Chippy.
Hi, Chippy Litzer, 39 Alfred Road, Great Barrington. As Michael has said, he's spoken about this a number of times. I have also, on the other side of the argument. What Michael's proposing is essentially a sugar high. Let me explain. For a short period of time, it would result in an increase in taxes for people at a higher end and a lowering of taxes from what they're currently paying for a good, a good majority of the population. Why is this a bad idea? And why do I say it's a sugar high? Because the best long-term way to reduce taxes, or at least restrain the growth in taxes, is new growth. What the assessor refers to as new growth, which is either more homes. Part of it is inflationary increases in the value of existing residential structures, but the other is the increase in new homes. And the best way to encourage that, second homeowners. What we want to do is put out a welcome sign for people to come here who are not permanent residents, who are second homeowners, and therefore don't contribute any students to our public school system. Why is that important? Because last year, 80% of the local taxes collected here, the property taxes collected, actually went to pay Great Barrington's share of the school budget. That's compared to like 45% in Stockbridge. So the elephant in the room is what we pay to the school district. And the best kind of new construction in Great Barrington would be expensive homes owned by second homeowners, because they're not doing anything by bringing kids in that would be part of our expense. Well, the biggest, by far the biggest expense for the town, they're not increasing that expense. And yet they're broadening the tax base by bringing in more revenue because they're building more taxable property. So if we want to put out the welcome mat for them, why would we want to put in place a measure that would be a flashing neon sign saying keep out? You come to Great Barrington, and alone among the towns in all of Western Massachusetts, we already have the highest tax rate in the county by far, and that's because of the way the schools are assessed by student head count. And so what we want to do is pile on that and say, yes, not only that, we're going to double down, we're actually going to increase your taxes. If you're a second homeowner, you're going to be helping to subsidize a differential rate in favor of permanent residents. It just doesn't make any sense. That's why I call it a sugar high. Yes, if you did it tomorrow, a lot of people would see their tax bill reduced. But over time, even though thered still be a split rate, non-residents paying more than everybody would be paying more, because you would have a situation where the higher income, the higher value properties now would have their property values reduced because of the additional tax burden. Those with the lesser tax burden would find their properties increase in value because of the lower burden that would favorably affect the value of their property. And overall, the town would suffer because it would be singled out in Berkshire County, in fact, in all of Western Massachusetts, as having adopted a residential exemption, which essentially discriminates against the people you most want to have arrive and build homes, broaden the tax base to overall reduce taxes for everybody. That's why this is a bad idea. It's been a bad idea for a long time, and I'm sorry I have to keep making this argument. But I would really suggest that it's not a proposal that should be adopted. Michael seemed to suggest that we'll do it just a little bit. We'll do like a 10%, see if it works, and there's no going back. You can see that right now in the school district agreement, where Stockbridge benefits mightily from the way the agreement's written. And there's no changing it, at least not at the local level. Once you grant local people, particularly a majority of local people, a lower rate compared to second homeowners, even if it's a little bit, there's no going back. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. And so what I'm saying is, we don't need experts. We don't need to overcrunch the numbers. What I'm describing here is a logical, rational outcome. We can see forward a few years, and we can see that it will be bad for growth in our tax base. And it will be bad for all of us because it will increase the burden because there will be less taxpayers to share that burden with.
Thanks, Jim. Go ahead, Vivian. Vivian Orlowski, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Name and address, please, Vivian.
Oh yeah, Vivian Orlowski on Lakeview Road in Great Barrington. I've lived here for almost 35 years. And in that time, my house's assessment has gone up a lot. And especially as I'm retired and my income has not gone up. It's mainly steady with very little extra work that I do to supplement it. So why am I concerned about this? Because supposedly this is going to help Great Barrington residents. Well, I'm certainly a long-term Great Barrington resident, and I'm sure there are a lot of other senior citizens who are, and maybe those who are not seniors, who this will affect due to the increased assessment value of our homes. This is not money in our pocket. This is not income that we get that we can deposit to our accounts. This is on paper, very nice, supposedly when we sell, although even when we sell now, we're going to be at a disadvantage because buyers are going to say, wait a minute, I'm going to have to pay more taxes than in X other town in this region. So it can catch people like me, whether we're continuing our residence or whether we can't deal with this extra expense and have to try to sell and depart. And I've heard about this proposal previously, and I certainly support doing what we can to get better, structure for the school. On the sustainability subcommittee of the building committee that's talking about creating a new high school for our town. I come from a family of teachers. I think we need to look into other ways of supporting our school and not compare ourselves with other towns, for example, in relation to people who rent. I understand in the past, I couldn't hear everything now, but in the past it was proposed that we follow the example of Provincetown, which is enabling the landlords who rent to full-time residents to get some type of exemption from this if the state legislature passes that. Well, we're not like Provincetown. Yes, we have certainly a resort element to our community, but they are about 85% second homeowners in Provincetown. So the impact of this is distributed over many, many people. Whereas here, we're about 15%, the last I heard from our principal assessor, there were about 15% second homeowners. So that means that those of us who live here and who are landlords as well as longtime residents are going to be the ones that a very definite increase is going to hit hard. And the landlords who are hit hard by it, if they rent to residents, I don't know if they're going to be able to make those exemptions. And certainly if they rent to our small local businesses that we want to support, our business community, the commercial landlords are not going to get an exemption. So their rates are going to go up, and then their rents are going to go up for their local businesses they deal with. And one last point, comparing us to Provincetown is very interesting because I just checked and their fiscal 2025 residential tax rate is $5.60 per thousand. Compare that to our $13, and I can't remember how much change, but near $14 per thousand in terms of the tax rate. So their tax rate is like 1/3 of ours to start with. So when you're saying increase your tax rate from $5.60, maybe it's not a problem for those people. But if you're talking about increasing it from what we're paying now, it certainly is a problem and one that needs to be researched again. We've all done some, not all of us, but a lot of us who are concerned about this have done prior research. But before anything should be considered, it requires new research and more balanced understanding of what's involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. Deb Phillips. No, she's down there. There she is.
Okay, now I got it. Yes?
Good. Yes, you do.
So I'm gonna beg to
Name
differ.
and address, please.
Oh, Deb Phillips, Highland Drive, Great Barrington.
Thank you.
I'm gonna beg to differ on the push to get more second homeowners to buy more land and build more houses. I'm really concerned about building a year-round and maintaining a year-round community in Great Barrington. And I think this is one of the strongest ways we can do this. I hear Vivian's concerns about the value of our houses going up, and on fixed incomes, that's difficult. But as Michael said, there are any number of ways seniors can save on taxes that I think will counteract the difference in taxes that will come for those who have higher valued homes. So I'm very much in favor of the residential exemption. I think it is critical that we get the exemption for landlords so that landlords who rent to year-round tenants, because I think that again will encourage renting to year-round tenants and families who want to live here as opposed to doing short-term rentals, which has also impacted the availability of real estate. So I think the residential exemption is a great idea. I think if we start very low until we make sure we have the exemption for landlords, and then each year to consider just how much of it we need and look at who it, sort of at what level it's going to make what kind of impact. But I think it's going to make the biggest impact on the people who are struggling to stay in their homes and be part of this community. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Peter, go ahead.
Good evening, Peter Mosting, 19 East Mountain Road. Speaking on Michael Weiss's side on behalf of the residential exemption. I'll be very brief. The town is facing some enormous funding challenges. I don't need to tell you that. We're looking at the school. We're looking at the potential purchase of the Houstonic Waterworks Company, and we're looking at maybe 4.1 million on a bridge. These are substantial sums. I know it sounds trite, but when it comes to the school, repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is crazy. It is crazy to think that we will go to the town at a future town meeting and expect that we're going to get 2/3 of the residents to approve a significant sum to improve renovation or rebuild the school, new school, whatever it is, unless we can help those that are burdened the most. And the way we do that is by reducing their property taxes. So when it comes time to ask for funding for the school, other individuals who ordinarily cannot afford to do so may be willing to step up. The same thing's going to happen with Houstonic Water. Hopefully it's not 3 votes. And of course, we need to help the folks, with the bridge. So this is a mechanism that will permit a shifting of expenses. And when it comes to Mr. Litz's point that it's discriminatory, consider that most second homeowners come from regions in Massachusetts, the Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, where they already have homestead exemptions. Also, all the suburbs of New York, more second homeowners come from communities where they are privileged to have homestead exemptions of their own. So it's not as if they're being fully doubled up. But the real reason I want you to consider this residential exemption is it's the only way the town will be able to get the votes it needs to afford all of the projects we're facing.
Thank you. Anyone else? Select board, any discussion? Ben?
If no one else has. I personally would like to speak in favor of the, residential exemption. I'm a senior. I'm sure I will never reach that amount. Couple of things. I would like the thought of the residential exemption. I think, in Vivian's case and older, our percentage, aging population is 23% in this town. That means there's a lot of seniors who can stand to save the money. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And I would want to maybe exempt some of the older seniors that have been in this town for a while. I'd hate to think that they would have to pay taxes if they've been in their home for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And I don't personally like the idea of having to, well, all of a sudden now I have to find a way to save some money because I'm going to be taxed more. So I don't like the thought of making seniors do that. And also I'm concerned about people coming in and buying up the land. We have a housing crisis that's all over the world, not just in Great Barrington. And I don't think it's wise to have people come in and buy up the land and build these houses so we can charge them more money. When we have people in this town that need a place to live. And I think doing that is I don't like the idea one bit of having people come in and buy up the property that maybe we can use for housing people that need to be housed.
Anyone else? Ben?
Yeah, I mean, I thank everyone who spoke tonight on both sides. I think there's great points about the funding structure for our school and the way that it affects our overall budget, I can't use that to be a deterrent to wanting more families to be able to come into town. And I think that is important, and finding a way to make this, as much as we want people to build, we also want people to live here, want people to raise their kids here. Not only just for it's the right thing to do, but I think it also feeds into our labor base and it makes us a healthier town. And I think that a residential exemption is a way to make that easier for people who are getting started to actually be able to afford to live here. So, and to Peter's point, we are facing a lot of projects coming up. We need to find a way to make it easier for people to support those projects. And I think this is a possible way forward.
But the most I can do right now is we had a study done, I think 3 years ago by some consultants. I'd love to see the updated numbers. I don't believe we can implement this year anyways, or should we? So I would love to see us come back with a study in early 2025 that shows us exactly what those numbers are. I believe everything Mr. Wise has said, but I always like to see our principal assessor run through the numbers, and I would have no problem holding off in deciding early in the year whether for the following year we would do that or not.
Yeah, Ross, I just got a couple questions for you after and maybe you can clarify them now or maybe another day, but just the actual percentage of second homeowners, or if this was to take in place, do we have an idea of how many homes that would affect if the residential option was to go into place?
I mean, I can tell you how many second homeowners there, I can pull that down.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Pull it. Yeah, because we obviously, I'm just wild guess here, thinking somewhere around 390.
Yeah.
maybe, and obviously now they're paying residential, plus they're paying personal property tax.
Right.
That's their home,
Right.
they're already paying it.
Saying twice. And then the other question I have for you is, as far as your opinion and very similar, I understand what everybody's saying here at this table, and being in construction, I do mostly high-end residential work. I wire mostly high-end residential. And, I've never wired a new house in Great Barrington. I just haven't. All my jobs are in the towns that I feel that we subsidize. Half the time, new builds are in Alford, they're in Monterey, they're in Egremont, they're in all these towns that don't have the same bills, because we take care of the main portion of the internet, you know, and so I honestly really struggle with this, because I see that, and I don't, you know, people that are financially savvy can move over there if that's their concern. Some people want to live in the hub, you know, some people want to be in the heart, they want the Great Barrington address. I see it both ways here. So what I also see is my neighbors and everybody around really struggling with the tax rate. And we do have a lot of big things on the agenda. And everyday citizens understand that the second homeowners, all that, like, it's very clear if you've been living here, the benefits that they bring, you know, from, you know, no more Napa on the top of Railroad Street, although it was a pretty convenient auto store, but we have them elsewhere now. But it's obviously been a lot of change, and I enjoy the growth that Great Barrington's had for social reasons, financial reasons, all of them. But I also understand we do a lot of work for affordable housing. We do a lot of work for, you know, everybody here. But the people that have been living here for the longest time feel like they feel like no one's doing much for them. And, I view the residential tax exemption as a broad thing pushing towards making everything more affordable for the, whatever the percentage is. Is now the right time to proceed it? If we don't do it now, in 20 years, will we be Cape Cod? Will we be busing people in from an hour away for fuel to have staff, to have anybody here have a waitress or waiter at their restaurant? I don't know. And it is a difficult decision to make, and I struggle with it every year when we come to this point. Yeah. So I don't, it's a struggle for me to make these decisions, this particular one.
It is, you know, we know second homeowners don't use, if they're only here 6 months out of the year, we know that they don't use our schools. They, fire and police are reduced. And the assumption, and I don't know that it's true or not true, that this will mostly affect second homeowners. At $700,000, I think there's a lot of full-time residents who have houses that are above seven. If you've lived here 40 years and maintained your house may be worth over 700,000. That's one of the things Ross talked about tonight. His assessments are higher. So I am concerned that we may not only be hitting second homeowners.
May I just say, that's one of my points, if you've been here 40 years, of course your house is gonna be going up behind, but if you've been here 40 years, then you're probably my age or older. So I'm 73, you're probably gonna be that or older, and I think that is going to save you some cash. I don't see that as a big issue. I think that's why I'd like to see an exemption for people that have been in this town, living in their home for 40, 50, 60 years. Of course, they're gonna go up, but their paycheck is not going up. That is for sure.
Ross, just, and this is, if you don't know the answer, that's fine. Garfield and I have similar thoughts here. Can we put in, would that take a home rule petition, put an exemption on someone who's lived here so many years, whatever that number is? Or is that even legal to do?
I don't know, I'd have to research that.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate you.
Anyone else? Okay, do I have a motion? Yeah, go ahead, Ross, please.
Just want to finish this.
Yep,
So last time was the fire district. And so basically the fire district tax rate's going down, from $1.59 to $1.50, and that's based on what their levy is. And so the next step in tonight's process is for the town to vote on a shift of one or an approximate tax rate of $13.79. I don't know if you're gonna speak to the fire district or not. Yeah, we're gonna ask for $1.50. Okay. So that. That's the portion of this.
let's have the fire district go first while we're, you wanna call your meeting to order and make your vote?
Would we have, motion to follow the order? No. Don't, make a motion to follow the order. Secondly. All right, motion approved. So, you'll take a look at the paperwork, or actually, I don't know if you guys have it. Over the, previous year, we have, increased the value of the fire district by about 84 million. We managed to reduce our, expenses, our levy, by 32,000. We had a tax rate last year of $1.59. We're looking for a tax rate of $1.50. We're looking at a single rate. A motion for that? So. Secondly? Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion?
I just want to have still like a little discussion too. So, you know, I've definitely been on record with being in favor of progressive tax rates and obviously the real estate transfer fee, which is something that I've been pushing and I will continue to push. That didn't make the Affordable Homes Act. And also the exemption for those that rent affordably. That's another mechanism that I put forward as part of the housing committee, which hasn't really moved forward, but that is something. And I am a proponent of the seasonal communities designation. So I think that these are all mechanisms that are worthwhile. And I think there's a lot of positive things about this residential exemption. I am curious about, you know, having more discussion and the fact that, you know, Anne brought up a couple questions from the finance committee. So has the finance committee gone through this, discussion, amongst, Anne, are you still there? And obviously, I know it's a select board decision, but I'm just wondering, have you done any of the, deep dives from a finance committee, perspective?
Hi, can you guys, Dan?
Yes, we can, Ann.
I mean, I can search on this. I think we did do some deep dives into it, but it was quite a few years ago. I think we have, and that's why when Michael was presenting and then Chip brought in some information and Vivian, I think there's just a lot of numbers we want to make sure we know what we're talking about and not make decisions. And again, I'm not saying I'm feeling compelled toward it, but I would want to know more. If it were me making the vote, I would want to know more before I change the tax rate.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So I guess, a couple of things that Chip said, I personally find offense with, I think that we want our schools to be filled with students. I mean, we want our full-time residents, we want our homes to be, filled with people that actually work and live here. So I don't necessarily want to, keep pushing, more seasonal homeowners, but I do, realize that there's a lot of, moving pieces in something like this. And to Ann's point, and something that you brought up, is this something that the board would be open to further looking into before making this decision at this point? And I'm just throwing it out because I don't know if you all are prepared to make this decision.
I think that's the right thing to do, to get more information. I think it's clear
Okay,
that we're all looking.
okay, because yeah.
So Ross, what I'm gonna ask you to do, we don't need to vote on this, is to come back in February maybe with either update the consultant's report, or if you need to get a consultant's report, whatever you need to do to give us the most updated numbers. And you've given us your recommendation, now we just have to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see if the same consultant's still available. Hopefully he is. If not, we'll have to see if we can find somebody, because we certainly want to look at this in an unbiased manner and get the most accurate data and information we can. So So it,
And I would want to get some information on how long it actually takes for a home rule petition to go through the legislature to exempt landlords, you know, maybe have someone from Providence town, you know, come in and actually give, you know, a sense of actually the steps that took. Because I do have concerns about, you know, renters being affected. So I'm just wondering, you know, if you have a home rule petition, you know, how long actually does what's the likelihood that that would pass through the legislature? Or is it just a slam dunk depending on the person that's putting forward?
I can tell you that.
Okay.
Just pushing buttons and hitting.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, I don't know, I'm throwing that out, whether we wanna,
Let me ask another question. So, you know, obviously, there's a debate here of how to achieve some tax relief, but also keep the coffers coming in. So in your professional opinion, like, we could probably achieve, am I mistaken thinking like the split tax rate or something like that? Would that be a different mechanism to achieve this? And because in my experience talking with people at the post office, everything else, everybody, I do get a lot of feedback. It's amazing driving through the center of Great Barrington and we see all the foot traffic in the downtown area. You see all these commercial buildings getting, specifically right here in the center on Main Street in Great Barrington, a lot of growth happening there, a lot of investment. You see a for sale sign in one of the main buildings, it's not there very long, you know? And so, would that be something that you feel, would be a safer route, a route that's been more utilized by towns similar in size and scope of ours?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, split tax rate has been done in more towns, and obviously, I mean, you know, that's the thing. I mean, I'm not, when we were asked to look at this the last time, right, I mean, pretty much it's the same, right? We see nobody has it, plus the 495.
Mhm.
And nobody's used it to fund anything, because if it was a tool to do that, somebody would have used it for that.
Mhm.
You know, and we spent $5,000 to hire a consultant, which, you know, didn't really prove it out, and we've been talking about this thing for nearly 20 years.
Mhm.
And it hasn't really gained any ground. There's a reason for that. Split tax rates on the other side of the coin, you know, they've done that in Pittsfield, they've done it with Adams, they recently did it in Adams. You know, you could do a split tax rate here, that's gonna shift the burden off the residential and push it onto the commercial, industrial, and onto personal property. Not just personal property used in the context of a business, but personal property for the second homeowner. They would pay a higher commercial rate, along with everybody that has land and check, they would pay a higher rate if you shift it. So that is another option you can use, along with looking at the existing seniors, veterans, and the land exemptions that we have. Adopting more of those, lowering the qualifications and raising the exemption levels. You know, those are all other things that we can do to help seniors. You know, I've mentioned, you know, taking a second look and putting some trace on this senior workout program. You know,
Yeah.
we've got people on there, in my opinion, that don't belong.
Yeah, yeah. And I do remember, you know, working on the real estate transfer fee very closely with you and doing a total deep dive. And there are many, many avenues that should be explored, especially with something as serious as this. And, you know, I would want to know everything and really see the mechanisms and the timelines and the reality of doing this. It would be something I would want to definitely look into. I just don't know if we're at this stage right this moment to make that decision. So, but I think it deserves a very, very close, serious look, and as well as the split tax rate. So I don't know. So would if I make a recommendation
Yep.
to adopt this and then with
We'll also come back to it.
yeah, with
Single tax
for
rate.
now to adopt a single tax rate with noting that we have Ross come back at a certain date.
I would maybe second that if we had a guaranteed time of like right after budget season stuff.
Yeah.
And we dive into it at the beginning of the year with finance board
We'll do a joint meeting
Joint
with
meeting.
finance. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so we did, we did have a consultant a couple of years ago, so we have all that.
Couple of things. One is I would like, I don't want the resident exemption to be pushed back. I want that also fully examined. And I actually have a question for you that hasn't anything to do with that, but I was asked, has anyone else applied, Ross, for the senior tax deferral?
No, we haven't had any inquiries. When that
There's still
initially-
one or two people, I guess, that are using it right
when that
now.
initially came out, there was, like I said, probably at least a dozen people that inquired about it.
Right, but only one or two are using it.
One qualified for it, which, as much as that's out there, I mean, it's just, I think I just don't think we want to deal with the lien. I think, I can't confirm that, but I guess, they don't want that lien on the house, because there have not been a ton of interest in it.
There's a couple other things. One is I just concerned about us seniors having to do work if they're, especially if they're not able. So that's why I was speaking before. I didn't like the fact that maybe it would have to make people take some different means of saving money through some type tax deferral if they're unable to. And if you've been in your house for 60 years, why do I think I need to have to do this all of a sudden so I can save myself some money when I've been here and paying taxes forever? Yeah, I just have a question, actually. Thank you. And I just have a question for our board. I just wanted to check again. We did indeed up the rate and lower the taxes rate on that to 4% and up to 45. Is that correct?
I don't think we never, I don't think we ever did.
I looked it up, we never did it.
No. So that should be something.
We thought we had done.
Yeah, I did too. We
No.
did.
Okay, so, I'll make a motion to adopt the single tax rate of 13.79 per 1,000 evaluation for all classes of property for FY 25, with the direction that Ross return, and we have a deeper dive
By the
conversation
end of February.
by the end of February. Deeper dive
I'll look
conversation.
at that. Okay.
Can we, now I don't know if it's separate or not, but can we include the residential study
Yes.
with it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this is.
And do I need to make a motion to have the residential tax amounts?
No, we'll
I
put
think
that on a
that's-
future
I
agenda.
think that's a different.
Talking about it.
Well, all right, that's my.
Senior tax deferral.
So-
Yeah.
Talking about the tax.
Yeah.
deferral,
To lower the-
document shipped.
Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, roll call vote. Ben.
Aye.
Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. Okay. Update on the W.E.B. Du Bois statue bench, new stairs at the Mason Library. Go along to the government from New York City.
Hi, I'm Julie Michaels. I think this is the second visit the select board has made. I am a co-chair of the W.E.B. Du Bois Sculpture Project. I am here to update you. I think all of you have in your packet a photograph of the statue as it exists today. This is a full-size statue. You see a clay model. I think it's quite spectacular. The work is continuing on this sculpture. It will be ready to be bronzed sometime in December, or January. And we hope that it will be ready in the early spring. This weekend, I went up to Vermont to approve the selection of the marble that is going to be used for the benches. Initially, we had hoped to use Sheffield marble, and that was not possible. There wasn't enough of it around. And then we thought of cast stone, and then we went looking for marble that was in our budget. This is a little above our budget, but it's going to be spectacular, and we do have the plans. As you know, the stairs, thank you to the town and the CPA, are now being constructed or reconstructed. So we're on schedule for an unveiling in
the spring. I think we have to know when the snow melts and when it's good for the publicity that this will bring. And I think it will bring a lot. You may have read that we have partnered with Embrace Boston, who are responsible for the statue of Martin Luther King in Boston. They are very excited about this as it's part of their larger project to salute great Americans of color who have done things for us, and they see their interest and our interest is coinciding. Because of their help with us, we've gotten the Mass Office of Travel and something for $150,000, and that is going to help fund the statue. It's going to help us bring this to fruition. We've also, thanks to our state senator, gotten $50,000 from the state for this. I want to emphasize that these funds are raised and it will not cost the town anything. I'm very excited of the direction we've gone in, and I also want you to know that we are reaching out to major cultural institutions in Berkshire County and asking them to help welcome Du Bois to Berkshire County. And we expect, as does the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, that we are going to invite a new batch of tourists to Berkshire County, because we have a lot of African American heritage here. The James Wendell Johnson office cabin is about to be more available to the public. We've got Elizabeth Freeman. We've got this new Agrippa Hull letter that has just been purchased by the Stockbridge Library. And it's very exciting to see this building. And I hope you're excited, and I think we're doing a good job, and it's much more expensive than we thought it was going to be, but you run a town and you know that's always the way. But we're getting there, and I have a great committee and a great public works person who I'm working with. So any questions?
Keep up the good work.
Good.
I'm all
So-
for it.
Let me just ask Joe, you want to give a chance here to give an update on the steps?
The CPA, we had approved CPA application this last town meeting, $95,000 to reconstruct the steps. And the takeoff of that will be that will execute the construction through the same contractor, and Julie's group will be paying the town.
We've just given the county check for $50,000. There is some more money to be raised. As I say, things are more expensive than we thought. We're really interested in signage that will link various locations in the town and in the rest of Berkshire County, and some educational materials in the library. So there are steps to be taken, but I'm very pleased with our progress so far.
Great, thank you, Julie. Do you have a motion?
I make a motion to accept this gift and approve the final design.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, it's been a long night, is the town meeting election calendar. Peter, do you want to just? Okay, great. Thanks, John.
Warren Meyer, 11 George Street, Great Barrington. I'm here to make a proposal of the select board. I want to say in advance, I know this is not the first time it's ever been suggested, and I know it's not a perfect solution, but I think it's something that would be good for us as a town. Let's have our annual meeting on a Saturday afternoon, okay? Just not a weeknight. But I think, you know, there's a group of people I have coffee with, and we sort of have all come to the idea that maybe a Saturday afternoon is the right time. The reason I bring it up is because I believe we're all in agreement that democracy, the way that we're able to do it in this town and in many New England towns, direct democracy at an annual town meeting is a really exciting thing. I think that we struggle because we don't always have the participation that might really make that wonderful. And if we can, maybe change it up a little bit, we could get that. Just briefly, the facts as I know them, and I know you know them, our attendance isn't good at annual meeting. In 2024, 253 people came, which by Peter Moss article, I know is 5% of eligible voters. We know that people don't stay till the end because the meeting goes quite late, 11 o'clock sometimes on a weeknight. Decisions from early in the evening sometimes get reversed because so many people have to go. Childcare is
Just to be clear, we have, reconsideration is 15 minutes, Michael, so they can't be reversed.
Oh, yeah, okay. Childcare can't continue after about 9:30 on school night. And we run the risk always of losing a quorum when we have decisions to make at the end because so many people come for a particular vote and then because of the lateness of the hour, head out and we end up with just a little small group at the end. It's my observation, as I'm sure it is yours too, that as I look around town meeting, there's a lot of gray hair in the crowd. I don't know what the average age is there, but there aren't many young people, young parents who are able to go. I never could do that when my kids were young. We both worked. We had to be up early the next morning. We had the kids to think about. So one or the other of us would go when we felt we could or we needed to, but it was really the only way we could do it. So let's try a weekend. That's what we're asking you all to think about. To see if we can get more people there, but also get more people there who now aren't being represented. Some younger people, families, and just see if we can avoid some of those pitfalls that we face when we do a weekday thing. You know, childcare becomes much more possible in the daytime on the weekend, for instance. And I think Peter can add some thoughts to that. Thank you.
Peter Moss, East Mountain Road. Tonight is a terrific night to be considering the question of how to re-engage voters. I think we all agree voter participation is important. And I think we can agree we haven't seen it at town meeting as much as we'd like. You may or may not know I read an occasional column for the Berkshire Edge, and in connection with that, I often chat with people just about various topics that interest me, and town meeting has been one of them. And I often elicit the same response: I wish I could go, for different reasons. I wish I could go because of childcare. I wish I could go, but I work the next meeting. I wish I could go, but I like to avoid driving at night. The important agenda items that I care about are coming too late. I don't want to be out late. Ben was one of the individuals I asked about this, and I hope you don't mind me mimicking you, but he threw up his hands and said, yeah, childcare. And I mean, Maureen made the point, people with kids can't get to the meeting, then you have to be there. But so, I mean, that's the issue. How can we facilitate getting more people to town meeting? I didn't have this direct conversation, but someone who used to be on the select board chatted with a local rabbi. Doing it on a Saturday morning would be inconsistent with services. But the indication back was, you know, Saturday afternoon could work. I chatted with some folks at the farmer's market. You know, it was after 1 o'clock, that wouldn't interfere. I spoke with Sean Stanton. He asked me to look into not moving the town meeting, but what it would mean if we had representative town meetings. So I looked into that, he brought it up. I don't think that works for our town, we're too small for that, it's usually done for towns that are about 12,000 or more. It can be done for more than, I think it's 5,000 or 6,000, so you could do it. But I don't think that actually gets the engagement we're talking about here. I'm sorry, Sean. I know we can all scoff at internet surveys, but they're not nothing. There's some indication. And I ran one at the end of one of my columns in April. Question I asked is, would you prefer to have a town meeting on Saturdays? The response was 81.82% of respondents said yes. So
How many people total?
There are 52. So, and that's actually more than usual for people responding to surveys. That's a really high number. I think the highest number I have is we in town council, that was at 97%, and this and that had high vote. This was like up there with that. In any event, 81.82%. So there's something to consider. It's not new. The town's second town meeting was on a Saturday. Town has held town meetings on Saturdays periodically. I couldn't locate when they started on Mondays. I guess it's been for decades. But it doesn't mean it can't be on, excuse me, that it can't be on Saturdays. Other local communities hold town meetings on Saturdays, Beckett, Monterey, and Sanesfield. Egremont holds special town meetings when it wants to kill school consolidation. There is nothing wrong, inherently wrong with having it on a Saturday. And I think Monday nights are particularly inconvenient. Thank you.
Anna Christine Stanton, go ahead. Just unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Toby Stanton, 69 Division.
Hi, sir.
I brought up the concept of a citizen liaison, which the town doesn't want to fund. But
Toby, we haven't even talked about that, so that we've never said we don't want to fund that.
okay. All right, so let me just jump ahead then. I talked to my niece about this this citizen liaison to.
So Toby, that's for citizen speak. We're talking about the town meeting calendar, about moving town meeting to Saturday. Do you have an opinion on that?
I think all I want to say is about getting the young people there. When I talked to my niece about my citizen liaison and that person teaching the citizens the rules of the meeting, she said that was a great idea. I don't go because I don't understand the rules. So maybe something to consider. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. What's the board's desire?
I think it's a great idea. I think we should try it, and I'm all for, I know understand childcare and the challenges of it, and I think, greater participation in our democratic process is needed, so I would be willing to give it a shot, personally.
I would not. I think, I just, rather, if it's gonna be on a Saturday, it's gonna be, let's say it's 90 degrees. Nobody's gonna wanna come out and sit in the sun at 90 degrees, or we have it inside, excuse me, let me finish.
Yeah.
Okay, it's inside, that's fine. I just don't see people coming on a beautiful day, whether or not it's inside or not. There's plenty of things one can do on the weekend, because maybe that's all the time they have is to get their errands done, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't like the idea of a Saturday meeting. I just don't think the turnout would be that great personally.
I would push back on that, just because, I mean, there's gonna be excuse for literally any night, right? It's the Monday night, but any weeknight thing. If you have to be up, if you have to get your kids to school in the morning, if you have to be at work in the morning, staying out from 6 to 11 in the auditorium, everything that Peter and Maureen said. And thank you for your presentation and doing the legwork. It's just, it makes it that much harder. I'm often, like, I know many couples who, if they have young children, have to make the choice about one member of the household being able to go, if any go. Because again, it's always gonna be, this process is inherently inconvenient. The fact that all of you have stayed for 2.5 hours in this hot room tonight, I'm incredibly impressed by it, but like, that's this is what it is, right? It's sitting down and having these meetings. And it's always going to be asking people to step out of their regular lives. I think doing it on a Saturday makes it that much easier for people. Doing it earlier also, I would hope you can come in with a little bit more energy, maybe a little bit more grace, so we can actually interact with our neighbors in a way that you might not get on a Monday night. Because I don't know about most people, I'm not usually at my best on a Monday night. I know we're here on Monday nights, but it's hard. It's
that.
You mean you get better than this?
You should hang out with me on a Saturday.
Oh, you never invite me.
But it's,
There you go, you're trying to.
it's, when we are up against, it's seeing the numbers at these town meetings, decrease the way they have over the years. We have to, I think, maybe it doesn't work, maybe you're right, Jericho, but I think we have to try to find a way to engage more of the voting populace.
It's interesting. Go ahead. Eric.
Yeah, I guess, my thoughts would be, we definitely need to engage more people. I always thought a Saturday, afternoon meeting would be a great idea. Definitely would need to be inside. I guess my questions would be to Mark, like, how long could we, the cost of it, the childcare, how does that get arranged? I could see it. There was one aspect to the outside portion that I could see it being easier because kids could be running around if we had it off to the back, but I think it needs to be inside just for the ease of the meetings. Just after the COVID experiment, although I enjoyed sitting out at night, too spread out. So I think it does need to be in the auditorium. I agree. I think Saturday afternoons, whether it's 2, 3 o'clock, until it's done, is a great idea. Maybe a little break in the middle. I think something needs to give to get more people at these meetings, more people involved, and try to get them done in one sitting at a reasonable hour. So, and yeah, Monday nights, there's no workday night that's good for the majority of the citizens here. So, and I do think it needs to be moved to a weekend, at least tried for a year or two,
I just think one of the things, especially if it's gonna be in the spring or summer, there's a lot of people that work on the weekend. I'm one of them. There's probably a lot of cats out there doing lawns and mowing, et cetera, et cetera. So I still think you're gonna run into a problem. There's a lot of people that work on Saturday. I am one of them.
Michelle, I'll let you go before me. Your privilege. I'll let you go before me.
Michelle LeBear, 70 Division Street. A few years ago, I was invited to attend the annual town meeting in Sandusfield. And it was held Saturday morning. And it was contentious. It was about a marijuana farm. It happened to be the Fulcrum people starting a marijuana farm in Sandusfield. So I was invited to attend. But one thing I noticed there, when you're having a meeting after a long day at work, late at night, it's going on, you get cranky. And so although there was contention in the discussion, one thing I noticed after the meeting was, hey, you want to get together for lunch? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? It wasn't like, oh, I gotta hurry up, get home, go to bed, I gotta get up. I don't know about you guys, but I get up at 4 a.m. So, at 66, getting 3 hours, 4 hours worth of sleep isn't good enough for me. But it is a double-edged sword. You're not going to be able to solve everything by switching nights. For example, what goes on in May? The graduation activities and that sort of thing. Saturday, my husband and I are busier on Saturday and Sunday than we are during the work week. So you're going to have sport, kids doing sport practices. Anybody who has kids, know that. So a lot of stuff goes on in May. And that's when our annual town meeting is. So it's good for some things and it's not going to work for other things. But I do have to agree, it's hard for me, I'm at my desk at 7 a.m. and I don't have time to have dinner before I get to annual town meeting, I'm getting right there. And by the time 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock rolls around,
I'm not at my best, to put it mildly. So, I'm glad you're looking at it. And just a side note, Toby Stanton had another citizens group meeting on Sunday.
So this isn't citizen speakers about, but
Oh,
you can go
okay,
back
no,
and speak
it
about
was
that.
About, educating,
Yeah.
you know, people on annual town meeting, because a lot of people don't understand it too, which makes it longer when you don't understand it.
They does,
All right, thank you.
you,
Oh,
about this. Yeah, fine.
Okay, I'm gonna do it this way. I'm Karen Shalo, 13 Thrushwood Lane. I recently moved to Great Barrington from Arlington, Mass, which had representative town meeting. So I was very happy to get to a place with open town meeting because I never wanted to get in the way of the people who'd been representatives for 30 some odd years in my districts, so I never ran. So the first town meeting I came to was the special one in October, and I thought that had a lot of energy. It was last October, and there were like 400 and some odd people there, so I was really looking forward to the spring town meeting, which was, you know, half as many people were there. But there was a weird message going on at town meeting when people got up. I mean, they were being told, actually, that kind of consideration should have been brought to a different meeting. I was very confused about what town meeting was beyond a rubber stamp at some point. So I do think we should look at the way we, you know, implement town meeting to get people more engaged. But the one thing I did want to say is, I'm not sure that all rabbis would say Saturday afternoon is okay. I'm also not sure what message you're sending to people of different faiths, for whom the Sabbath goes till sundown on Saturday. So you really, you know, I'm a secular humanist, I'll come whenever. But what I think you ought to think about is not trying to do it all in one sitting. Because honestly, half of that town meeting was, I thought, pretty good and pretty lively. And then the second half was desultory. So my thought was, why not split it into a couple of nights? And I'm not like the be all and end all of Arlington, but it was the only thing I knew besides Boston. You know, so Arlington town meeting was scheduled for 2 nights with an option that it would go 3 or 4, depending on how long it took. And there was a concerted effort to get the meeting done in 2 nights, but it was never scheduled for 1 night. And honestly, I don't think the warrant was any longer in Arlington than it was here. So that's just my thing, but I really want to just go back to Saturday afternoon. I'm not sure that that's a real diversity and inclusion move.
So I have a couple of things to say. I haven't spoken. First of all, we did try the baby town meeting for a number of years. Started out okay with people there. Michelle, I think you came to almost everyone.
The
But-
mini town?
Yeah, the mini town meeting, but you knew what was going on anyways. So it was good that you were there, but by the last one, it was select board and Michael and paid staff. And no one else was there. And maybe we could have done it differently, but I don't know how. I thought it was a great idea and I really back that. I do agree that if we don't go to a weekend, we should have a curfew. I think we should have hard and fast curfew of 9 o'clock, 2 nights. I think that there's been some things voted on after 9 o'clock that would never pass at 6 o'clock. So I think that's a real problem. Youth sports are played all day Saturday. I think that's a problem. I'm a little surprised at the proposal Saturday, and I don't really care about one person asking one rabbi. I think that there is a message that's sent of just doing it Saturday afternoon that may be somewhat controversial. I also thought we had decided Sunday, when I was asked what I thought was better, doesn't mean I have a say, that Sunday afternoon may actually be better for people because youth sports aren't necessarily played then. So that concerns me that it's switched to Saturday by one person talking to one rabbi. I don't like staying, you know, like Michelle, I get up at 4:30 in the morning on a Tuesday, so it makes for a long day, so weekend would be better. Speaking, which I don't always do, as someone's lived here my whole life, I really wonder if we should be voting on this tonight or trying to get public input from people who actually come to it. I mean, people who live here their whole lives, And let's say we get 100 different people there. But there's 100 people who don't come who are normally there because they're not coming on a Saturday afternoon. What have we accomplished? So I would love to see, I'm one who always says the select board has the vote and we're not gonna take a straw poll on everything and we're not gonna send it to town meeting to let them decide whenever it's a tough one. But this one I'm not so sure that this is such an easy one. If 75 or 85% of the people say, yeah, it's the way to go, I usually go Monday, this would be a lot better, that'd be terrific. I am concerned what message it sends out for a lot of reasons. Go ahead.
Just 2 points of clarification. So it was Ed that spoke to the rabbi at Hebron.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't like she was overjoyed with the concept. She simply said most of the services and what goes on, are done after 1 o'clock by then. But I wasn't suggesting like people are saying, that's great, we should have it on.
Okay.
Regarding Sunday, in investigating this, I maybe erroneously came to understand that if it's at the school, it's either the school can't cook, maybe I when I asked somebody, I got a sense that it's more difficult to convene hundreds of people at the school on a Sunday than it is on a Saturday.
Interesting, because I was told the opposite by the director of facilities who said Sunday is more difficult, Saturday is more difficult because you use sports that may be played.
And as always, I think you're absolutely right, and I'm probably wrong.
No.
You're the one who's voting. But I had considered it.
Run a column, say I'm always right.
Anyways, I wanted to explain that's how it got moved, because our understanding was Sunday was inconvenient, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be inside.
Yeah, they said they would work it out, whatever we decide,
Okay.
but let's say there's a varsity baseball game on a Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Right.
That would be a problem.
Also, sports aren't played on Sundays traditionally in the first
Right.
weekend of May, so that makes it more convenient.
Yeah.
I think bottom line, at least, I'm going to speak for Maureen and I for a second. No, I cannot speak for myself. Let me speak for myself. Bottom line is trying it on another day, just once a year.
I'm not against it. Yeah, I'm not against it. Maureen?
A quick revision, my proposal is for Sunday afternoon.
Oh.
I really do like that better.
I think they'd start out Saturday or I took a nap and heard Saturday, one or the other.
I
No,
say,
I think Sunday is really good because, I grew up Catholic and once you get done with mass, it's not like you need to wait till sundown, after Sunday afternoon is fine. And I think even maybe better. I would prefer that, but I thought we had sort of all come to Saturday. The main thing is not a weeknight, a weekend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
weeknights
is-
are tough. I agree.
It is one weekend here. One weekend here.
Yep. I agree.
I'm gonna.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll let Eric and then Garfield.
So I guess I would I'm not a religious person, so I'll just say that, but I do understand the weekends, but I wanna know what's the benchmark of this was a success? Like you kind of just said, Steve, so last few, 300, 400, what justifies this as a success? And I think that needs to be determined before, so all of a sudden we're like, oh, well, we had 321 this year, so now we're always gonna do it, like. What is that number? What is that benchmark that we're looking to achieve here before we say it? With that being said, and again, not a religious person, my gut tells me that there would be more participation on a Saturday afternoon. I am not trying to leave out any other sort of religion or anything like that. I do not know those rules. But something tells me, just from whether it's working, construction, whatever, that Sunday's like everybody's shut down day that I speak to, but it's, that I think a weekend would probably be better either way, worth the try, but I do think, some sort of benchmark needs to be established, to understand what's a success and what is not, so.
Yeah.
Garfield and then Alex. Garfield, let us.
I'm not sure, again, my Saturday thing is, okay, I've worked all week. Now I have to go to a meeting on Saturday on my day off. I don't wanna go to a meeting on my Saturday, my day off, when I've worked all week, to have to come to a meeting. or myself, I would be working, get out of work and then come to a meeting. That's not gonna thrill me, just my opinion, and I do believe that we need to find out whether or not this is worth doing. I think you suggested that maybe we take a poll or a straw poll.
Yeah,
or something to that
something.
effect. And I don't think we should be voting on it tonight, as a matter.
Yeah, I just to kind of go to Eric's point, you know, I think, you know, deciding what our metric of success is a great idea. On the Sunday question, my word with the Sunday is that we just kind of end up repeating a lot of the same issues that we're currently having with the weeknight. That if you put it close on a Sunday afternoon, you're still running into the Sunday scaries, right? It's like, I know for kind of Eric's was saying, it's Sunday makes it that much more harder just to kind of like, it's the day. It's your last gasp of the weekend before, like getting prepared, getting your kids ready. It's just like it's Saturday has a bit more flexibility, you know, just from my experience. So I would expect parent, modern parent.
Sunday's a family day and.
Yeah,
you
it's,
wanna have
and
dinner at 1 or 2.
well, to your point, Garfield, I think it's always gonna be an imperfect system, right? It's again, asking people to take time out of their day, no matter if it's a weekend or a weekday, it's always going to be an inconvenience. I think we owe it to people of this town to try something to see, because it's like we are trending in the wrong direction with our current model, so it's like, but I think getting more information from the public is a great idea.
And how do we achieve that?
Yeah.
Let's just, let me let Eileen go ahead.
Put something in the shopper's bag.
I was Eileen Mooney, the newsletter. I was going to suggest that you ask the public to let you know, say within 2 weeks, what they would prefer. And that people also be asked if they would like 2 nights with a cutoff time for the first night, so that they would know that they would be leaving at, say, 8:30.
Thank you, Eileen.
Yeah, no, I don't, no, yeah.
Okay. We need to approve the calendar tonight. I would love to, because I'm not against this. I'm just a little concerned, maybe it's part of being New Englanders, changes time. That we put out a press release, and we have time to do that. And come back to the December 2nd meeting to finalize the date of the town meeting. And I would ask, you know, Peter represents the Edge, Heather's here, Eileen is here. And I know you're not representing the Edge tonight, though. Yeah, but has an in with the Edge. And the Edge is very cooperative, so isn't the Eagle and Eileen, that we put out a press release saying that we're considering moving it. I'm not against it, fine, if, you know, Saturday. But I just want to make sure that people have a chance to say something. It wasn't on the agenda as a change necessarily, although I knew we were going to talk about this. Maybe in hindsight, it would have been better to put very explicit on the agenda that we were thinking of changing it, but I actually didn't think of that. So, and come back and have a concrete time of December 2nd. We'll come back. That gives people 4 weeks. They can email, maybe Natalie.
How would you feel about us just posting a poll? Rather than having people email us.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Or a link to the poll.
A link to the poll, yeah.
Yeah.
Not just on social media, but
Yeah,
other
yeah.
places too. Yeah,
As long-
yeah, that makes sense. Mark.
Yeah.
What was that again?
We're gonna create a poll and then come back and forth.
No, I heard that, but what was Mark?
That's what Mark said.
Rather than have people call Natalie, we'll just have a poll set up.
Oh, yeah.
With the 3 options.
Yeah, do you wanna do like the weekday with 2 nights as well as the weekend, Saturday and a Sunday system?
So-
3 options.
Would the question be Saturday, Sunday?
Saturday, Sunday, or
1 night, 2 nights?
or 2 weeknights, 2 weeknights.
So it would be kind of neat to set it up, to be fair, as weekend, yes or no, and then Saturday or Sunday, so that once we know somebody wants a weekend, that,
Could it be afternoon though? 'Cause
Yeah.
Church service is also.
yeah, we're not gonna, yeah, you're right, we're not gonna do it Saturday or Sunday morning.
So,
Both religions about the same, their service ends around noon, so.
so weekend, yes or no, and then
Saturday or Sunday is preferred, which one's preferred.
Where are we running this poll?
We'll send it as a part of a press release and then we'll also put it on social media.
But I think
Should
also,
we use the Shoppers Guide too? I'm sorry, I'll be honest with you, I don't look at them. I think, and then the
wanna
Shoppers
put an ad
Guide,
in
that wide reaching, they get it anyway, you don't have to worry about it comes to your house. Anyway,
on that poll, I think we should also, like was said, leave it as is. And then 2 short nights. Right? Might as well just try to collect all the data possible.
35.
So let me just ask one question and then we're gonna move ahead. It's 9 o'clock. This has been a fun night. Michael, do you have anything you wanna say?
Only that these are all interesting and previously discussed issues. I floated 2 meetings, one of them 6 months later, and that didn't go over. I floated 2 on purpose in 1 week, and the impulse was, let's finish it on one night.
And fully in your defense, at one meeting, it was 9 o'clock, we weren't all the way through. You said, do people wanna go home? Or do you wanna stay? They said they wanted to stay, and then majority of those people left.
Nobody told me for on that night.
No, they did not.
So we can be flexible.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm not against this, don't get me wrong. I have questions, but it doesn't mean I'm against it. And I'll be there whenever it is, whether it's in the audience or as a select board member. I suppose it will be in the audience. It'll be as a select board member, I mean, because it's before election. But, you know, let's approve this because we need to have this approved. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Sorry.
That's okay.
to interrupt. I think changing the dates may change other dates on here, so I think you might wanna hold and.
Does Joshua need some of this approved or
No.
we have enough time?
We have enough time. We can bring this back to your next meeting and we'll be
Oh.
fine.
Okay, but we said December 2nd. That's not our next meeting. Is December 2nd too late?
Oh, sorry, I was thinking, somebody said 2 weeks. I don't know. It was.
Well, I'm not sure if you can do this in 2 weeks, that would be fine.
2 weeks feels like a bit of a short.
That's right, yeah.
Figure it out.
Yeah,
Our next meeting is the 18th of November.
Early December will be fine.
okay. I wasn't sure about that.
We need to have everything in place for citizen petition.
Right.
Opening at the first of the year or after. the year.
Okay, I just want to make sure we don't mess up the town clerk's office.
Yeah, if we can just ensure that the agenda specifically says that we're gonna be discussing this for
Yeah.
people that don't have time to do the poll or. Don't know about it.
Yeah.
So can I just clarify before we?
Probably not. It's 9 o'clock. I'll probably not remember what we did, but.
Weekend afternoon, yes or no? Saturday or Sunday preferred? As is. Or 2 shorter nights, those are the options you want.
I think we went afternoon, Saturday or Sunday afternoon.
I
Oh, you did,
Yeah.
oh, okay, sorry.
And I think that's all the ones Eileen put out there, which all made sense.
And Garfield, you'd like to see it in the shopper's guide.
Yes, well,
As well.
wide range.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Dinner.
It's a good discussion. Oh, that's way gone. I thought you were buying.
It's a dinner.
Okay, citizen speak time. Yeah, come on up.
You know, I didn't mind doing this meeting, it was kind of long, but I, from Sheffield, I kind of enjoyed seeing you guys in action. My name is Jim Larkin, 174 West Road. I own property in Great Barrington, cornfield down the south of the field for years and years and years.
That's the magic word. You get to speak, you own property.
I thought, well, let's not get past that, otherwise I'm out the door. Anyway, I was depressed with this discussion about the bridge. That's what I'm here for, about the bridge. It was depressing to have all these people here and inflict this pain year after year after. These people are not solvers, they're stoppers. I mean, it's gonna take them 2 years to check one box. I mean, I just can't take it. It's stupid. In this day and age, we deserve better, and we as citizens should demand better. And we should get it. I mean, these political people, I think you gotta stop talking to them and start demanding that this is an emergency situation. The Eisner camp wasn't even brought up, I'm sure it's in the background, the danger there, the exposure that that camp has. I want to leave open up. Anyway, let me give you my sort of optimistic scenario. We got a big problem in Sheffield too. Bad one, Kellogg Bridge. This one here that you're talking about is junk. We know that. That's why you're an expert to admit that that one's bad. But the Kellogg Bridge, I went to the meeting last Monday and it went over the deal there. Apparently there's like 3 members that are rusted. Nobody take care of these things, so it's all just iron. So you got 3 members that are rusting. The Bob says that the deck is in question. Yeah, that flaked off some. Okay, but there's no frog problems. There's no soil problems. The abutments are good. So here you are, members deck. I mean, it's a 6-month deal. You go down, I would offer any of you, you don't have to be an expert, just go look at the bridge. It looks like you could keep running over it anyway, but okay, you got the members bad, it's closed, so you got members deck. If you use your political, whatever clout you have, and work with the town of Sheffield, get that darn bridge fixed, that'll take the pressure off your other bridge. I mean, you're gonna be for 10 years, these guys are gonna jerk you around for 10 years, this darn thing can be fixed. It seems to me, you ought to be able to bypass some of this morass in a swamp by some sort of emergency declaration. It's a quick fix, it'll be at capacity, weight capacity, the whole darn thing will be like a new bridge. I mean, basically, you don't have a problem with the abutment, so you just put new parts on, not a big deal. A kid with a computer could calculate what the members gotta be and the weight of the deck and the load. And it's not, and, take them out to McDonald's. And this is to make these things so damn big when they don't have to be, but you let these people take over and they'll jerk you around forever. And likewise, the politician too. Hopefully we'll have a strong politician. But I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to work on our behalf and represent us. Well, you gotta know, if you're in a political world, you gotta know whose buttons to push and what boxes gotta be checked and get the darn show on the road, even including Neil. I wouldn't let him out of the loop either, but I was like, start tomorrow. If you could work with Sheffield, use that to get the darn Kellogg Bridge going, tidy up the Great Barrington side of the road, if you're familiar with it, that needs attention. Both sides need attention so people can pass and it's safe. That would take the pressure off, of course, help us out in Sheffield. I have accident right next to it, field right across the river, but that's.
Your time's almost up, so just wrap it up, please.
Well, that's basically my deal. I mean, you guys, you can spin your wheels with these guys. They'll jerk you around for what looks like me for 10 years and and besides charging you. I didn't see any cost saving system. I didn't see anything that was going to be work or make sense. It was just one bad answer after another. It was bad news.
Thank you very much.
What? Talk to Sheffield. We're your friends and neighbors. We have the same darn problem you do. If you'd all solve that one, bingo.
Thank you. Jim Garzone, I believe that's who it is.
Yes, it's James Garzone, 84 North Lane. I'll make this quick. Tax exemption discussion has really got me upset. People got their tax bill today on Facebook. There's over 300 comments of people very upset that their taxes are increased substantially. I absolutely agree that we pay too much. I absolutely agree that we have $150 million high school. We have Housatonic Waterworks. We have failing bridges. We have other issues that we need to pay a lot of money for. And now to single out second homeowners who have no say, who pay personal property taxes, who do so much for the community, and who are, 300 homes, I think was said by Mr. Most or Mr. Wise. Now we're going to add more taxes to us, being me, and I have no say. And let me tell you, it's a great sell, right? Because now the citizens who live there year round are being told, okay, we're going to decrease your taxes, increase for the second homeowners. So please vote yes for the new Housatonic Waterworks, whatever agreement we make, vote for the $150 million, high school that's coming and vote yes for the new bridges, $10 million that we're gonna increase the budget for. I mean, I hope that when you look at the numbers, you'll see it's better single taxpayer rate instead of a tax exemption. And I just want to make one other comment. One of the problems we have at Great Barrington, the land that we have, we can't purchase for affordable housing because one of the issues, the CPC doesn't give the full allotment to the Affordable Housing Trust. That's number one. Number two, I have personally tried to purchase land to give to the Affordable Housing Trust to develop, and I was told no because they don't have the money. So I'm trying to do my best to make Great Barrington affordable and for everyone. But now I'm being priced out and other second homers are being priced out. So I'm very upset. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Michelle?
Michelle Riviere, 70 Division Street. I'm sorry to bring up bridges again, but I've been here for hours. And there are two bridges on Division Street. There's the temporary span bridge, but there's also the Division Street Bridge over the Williams River. The temporary span bridge has a weight limit of 36 tons. The Division Street Bridge over the Williams River has a weight limit of 26 tons. A loaded dump truck weighs 36 tons. A loaded tanker weighs 33 tons. A loaded tractor trailer weighs 40 tons. A loaded flatbed truck weighs 40 tons. And a loaded cement truck weighs 33 tons. All of these I've witnessed going back and forth over the Division Street Bridge over the Williams River, particularly when the bridge on North Plain Road was being repaired by the state. So some of this is our own doing. We have a lack of enforcement as far as weight limits. These trucks are taking a toll on the temporary span on Division Street. One of my safety concerns regarding the bridge, and I placed on an agenda. So you're just asking for more trouble. That little bridge going over the Williams River, it's fine. It's a little country bridge. It's fine. But when I see loaded gravel trucks, massive gravel trucks going back and forth over that bridge, you're just asking for another bridge to go down. And I actually stood before, maybe not the people who are here right now, complaining about overweighted trucks going over the Division Street Bridge before it was closed altogether. So some of this is the town of Great Barrington's own doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Select board time. Ben?
Just want to thank everyone who came out tonight for we're at 3 hours and 9 minutes. I know that some of this can be frustrating, and I speak for myself, and I imagine fellow board members that we are also equally frustrated at different points in this process. But it's also a good reminder going into election day tomorrow that democracy only works if you engage in it. So I'm glad that we had so many people from showing up to engage. Everyone gets out to vote tomorrow if they haven't already, and a thank you to our poll workers in advance for all the work they do.
Thanks, Ben. Garfield?
Nothing, somebody, she Marshall will say nothing.
Eric?
My friend made it 9 minutes, 11 seconds.
Yeah, thank you for everybody coming out tonight. Go out and vote tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, Lee? And media time.
Sneaking out.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to adjourn the regular meeting and convene into executive session, not to return to open session. Under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3 for the following purpose: to review minutes from the December 16th, 2019 executive session in order to determine if non-disclosure of those minutes is still warranted. Board's actions will be reported at the next regular meeting scheduled for November 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
I move that we move into executive session
No, that one.
to under MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3 for the following purpose: to review minutes from the December 16th, 2019 executive session in order to determine if non-disclosure of those minutes is still warranted. The board's action will be reported at the next regular meeting scheduled for November 18th, 2024.
Throw a second.
Second.
Roll call, Ben.
Aye.
Garfield.
Well, my only thing, I wasn't here in 2019, so I don't think I can participate or have.
Yeah, because what we're determining, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, whether it's appropriate to release these minutes, so you don't have to have been here. If we
It's also a
were,
rule of necessity.
well, I don't know if we can declare that, probably can, that'd be, but it is a rule of necessity because Lee and I are probably the only two who were here at that point. So, am I correct, Mark?
Yeah, and I think Lee.
But I,
Recuse
yeah, I
yourself.
recuse myself.
Can she participate in this, or she could recuse herself, or don't you want to give advice?
I should
Well-
probably leave.
Well, why don't you proceed with the motion to go into executive session and we can discuss this, I did have this conversation, I think, with Eric. And
I asked the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was thinking that it's only,
Two of us.
are you,
Well, Lee didn't participate, so I'm the only one.
right, you're the only one. I was thinking that you probably have to invoke the rules, just as you approve the minutes.
So do we do that in executive session, or is that done in public session?
You can do that in executive session.
Okay,
You really, right now, you're just making the motion to go into executive session and then we can
Okay.
discuss.
okay. Ben.
Aye.
Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And I. We will not return to public session. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I was just waiting till you got rid of everyone, but I'll just, it
Oh, I'm sorry.
really doesn't matter. I can just kill it.